Welcome to episode 16 of Prepared, your weekly TBC breakdown. So we got a lot of PvP stuff to go over today because it's a slower news week on the other front, but we got some interesting PvP stuff to talk about. So firstly, we're going to talk about the Druid fix. They fixed the Druid potion interaction for energy. They went back and fixed it. As always happens with the podcast, when we talk about bugs, it seems they're fixed the day after. So any Blizzard devs, I hope you guys fixed the rogue ones as well. Because there's season 2 items got fixed, and then Mag and Shade got fixed as well. And then
they fixed kicking on blinding off targets a while ago.
It's true. I hope whichever Blizzard dev is listening, please fix all the rogue issues. Rogue prio. Speaking of rogue prio, we also talk about how I got DST. That's a fun, interesting story.
Good Lord.
Zirene saw the photo. It's a good photo.
See, my favorite part of this whole thing is just like all the times where it's like, people are like mad at me for saying that it's not as big of an upgrade for hunters, and then Snow's the one who gets it, and it's like how do we actually feel about this? I don't know, man. Dude, that screenshot's gonna make people pretty mad.
Yeah. It's a good story. I have reasoning behind the screenshot. I'll explain the screenshot and such, but yeah. So I got DST, so we can talk about more DST stuff. As well as that, I want to go back and talk a little bit about DST replacements in upcoming phases and such, because I think that factors into things as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an interesting topic I thought we could cover as well, is whether should former classic loot decisions factor into TBC loot decisions, because it's kind of like a weird area where some guilds are doing that more, some are doing that less. I think it's a interesting topic to talk about. Yeah, and then we're going to talk about rogues as well. By the way, guys, mutilate rogues really bad. So in particular,
regular rogues too.
No cosign there. No cosign there. But yeah, mutilate rogues are pretty bad. Then there's also Blizzard's PvP tourney, and I thought it'd be fun if we talk PvP stuff, because we have some data now. There's websites with the PvP data for class distribution, team comps, ratings, and where people are at. So I thought we'd make a little power ranking list during the podcast at some point as well. And then of course we're gonna cover the hot topic of the last week, which is the honor PvP meta stuff, which is coming true seemingly. Where some servers are literally having mass transfers off and things like that happening because of the entire PvP meta. But yeah, so let's get started. Zirene, how are you doing this week? Anything interesting over the week?
Honestly, it's been another week where I've just been grinding. I realized that I've been doing more streaming than like ever. I think we're 24 days into the month, and I have like 340 hours streamed. So I've streamed over 12 hours a day every day this month.
Has it just been all your leveling that you've been streaming?
Yep, leveling, rating, gearing. And then just like, talking to people while I do that stuff, because I just finished my third 70, my shaman, Shami Milkers. And she's ready to go. She's did a Karazhan already on her. We'll be doing a Groll and a Mag Theridin later, because I like Ellie, so it's a lot of fun. And I also like finding out little mechanics where I discovered that I'm becoming more and more interested in things that snapshot, like for example, like rupture snapshots, right? Like if you pop your AP trinket and then you rupture, and then your AP goes away, the rupture will maintain the same number, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like something like consecrate constantly updates. So if I get like a spell power proc while my consecrate's already down, the consecrate will change in damage. So it's actually it's really interesting, because when you get to something like shaman, healing stream totem snapshots, and healing stream totem has a long duration. So as an enhancement shaman, I'm actually thinking for like people in my guild, if you're like looking at top end stuff, enhancement shamans should just be collecting all of the DE'd healing gear. Because before a fight, if you slap on all of your healing gear, put down a healing stream totem, and put all your regular gear on, the snapshot of the totem is going to be really high. And you don't use a water totem as a enhancement shaman, right? So there's things that I'm like looking at and like kind of messing around with classes, and that's something that's really big too. Because my friend pops like. My friend is like a resto shaman, so obviously it's a little higher, but he can pop like his trinkets and everything, and then his healing stream totem ticks for 180 for the entire duration, and he basically heals for like 48,000 for an entire group during the duration of it. And I'm like, Jesus Christ! So there's things where like melee groups can maybe be taken care of a little bit more with that, but that's been my week is just like finding tiny things like that and being like, oh hey, this is flask set for enhancement shamans. Ruining the game for people. That's what I do.
Yeah, min-maxing it. It's funny, you just before the podcast started, chat was asking me whether I was an elitist in WoW or not. And now we have Zirene. Zirene can take the heat for the elitist segment.
Shit.
Ruining the game for everyone.
Well, the thing is, I guess I'm less on the side of like go have fun. And it's more like I don't think people will enjoy being bad, you know? Like people ask me, "Hey, should I play warrior?" And I'm like, "Abso-fucking-lutely not." Like they're like, "Oh, I'm playing warrior. How should I gear?" And I'm like, "As a paladin, you should just reroll paladin." That's kind of where I'm at right now. Is unless you're like a really, really good warrior, you should just be playing paladin kind of thing. So it's hard because I play with a lot of bad people. It's not. I don't want to say like elitist.
Name
in that
them.
regard,
Name them.
There's too many, dude. I did a pug last night. There's too many people. Snow me. Like that. God. It's also I think the parsing meta right now is really like
it's
my guild,
weird.
like
The
my guild
parsing meta is weird.
Yeah, my guild has stepped away from the parsing meta right now. They're just like they're like, okay, we're officially doing splits. We're not taking part in this cringe parsing meta because one, Warcraft logs doesn't seem to be able to figure out how to do like full clears for Karazhan yet, and two, you know how High Lord or High King, right?
Yeah.
When you kill him, the parse ends.
Yeah. So people are cheese like doing like dumb stuff like resetting 500 times just to get the perfect RNG and then killing him.
When my guild sat there for 10 minutes after a wipe, waiting for Bloodlust because they've like forced a wipe because they were like, "No, it wasn't fast enough." That's stupid. Like sitting there waiting 7 minutes for this cooldown to come back up so you can try to parse is just like they're like, yeah, we don't really want to do that. So they didn't want to take part in that. So it was really
parsing is really weird right now as well. I like people come on my stream and when I started the whole my adventures as a streamer and making a rogue website and all of that, I was known for being the guy who's obsessed with passes and passing and improving your performance and raid and such. And then they'll come on my stream nowadays and they're like, "Hey Sno, why aren't you like you're passing? You're not really like min-maxing your stuff. You're not like popping haste potions on cooldown and things like that." And I'm looking at them and I'm like, guys, there's moments when I do pass if I have the right group comp set up and I'm set up to pass. But if I'm not set up to pass, I'm not popping haste potions and things because it's just wasted. Like I go from my 70 to a 71 because my group might not be set up to pass. You have to passing in TBC is weird in that if your group makeup is so important, if you don't have the ideal group makeup, especially as a melee, you just don't even compete. Like I just can't even compete without like even just having an enhanced shaman that's set up and twisting totems and such is such a big factor in being able to get like those 99. So when I don't have that, I just don't bother because it's like I can pop that 10 gold haste potion and it will do nothing for my pass. Like that's just how it is.
And I mean, and I don't mean to be the guy who said like I saw this coming, but like I literally talked about this like months ago, where I was like, yeah, it's going to be all about group comp. People are going to be like, what's the point? Like I had blood. I was telling you how on like beta when I was playing my warrior, and then they took the shaman out of my group to give a second lust to the warlock group, and then I was just like, what the fuck's the point? So I started intervening the off tank, right, to like eat hatefuls for him every now and then, and I was like, this is just. It just doesn't feel good, right? It feels fucking terrible. So, yeah, I just don't like the parsing meta. I do like how they publicly shame you with how many buffs you get on the thing. with like the 1 or the 2 for the bloodlust, but innervate like counts as well. So that was an interesting thing. I think we talked about before.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So I just hope it gets better, because parsing was one of the things that always kept me like interested in it.
Yeah,
But
like people always ask me why I like passing and such, and I think sometimes people misunderstand. They think I'm chasing the pass because of the numbers and such, but really I pass mostly because it's something to challenge yourself every raid. Because otherwise you start going to raids later in the phase, and it comes down to what am I doing, guys? Like why am I coming here every week if I'm not trying to improve or something? Because then the game can get really repetitive and boring if you're not trying to improve some aspect of your raid. So that's why, at least that's why I pass, is to keep it interesting. And that's why personally people don't see me pass that much during the first 2-3 weeks of an expansion, especially in the less hardcore guilds, because usually when I'm in a progression run, I don't care about my pass that much. I just make sure I'm doing mechanics ideally, because that's when doing mechanics will actually matter, because your guild doesn't have it fully down yet. Not everyone has a full understanding of how things work. So I think those are the times, even though those are actually the times when it's easiest to cheese a 99, because there's less people competing, everyone's progressing. So you actually get a 99 way easy during the first couple of weeks. But I think it's not generally a good idea to chase passes early on in the non-hardcore guilds, because they won't know what they're doing, and then you're gonna ignore mechanics and ruin it for your raid sometimes if you chase the pass. A good example of that is Mechtherodon. A lot of times rogues get assigned kick duty, and you're just mashing your buttons to chase the pass, and you miss your kicks. You can kill people when people aren't like appropriately kicking and interrupting stuff early on.
Yeah, I had this conversation in my pug last night, where I did like twice as much damage as anybody else to the flares on Curator, right? And I'm a elemental shaman who has to swap targets, cast, etc. And there's like other people in the group who it's much easier for them to swap and hit. And then when the evocate happened, I was literally the only person on the flare, and like the raid leader of the pug was on the boss the whole time. And I told them, I said, look, if I played the same way you guys do, we would have wiped. And that's frustrating to me, because it means I'm the only person in the raid who didn't get to play the way you guys did. So like, if everybody plays the way I do, we all get to go on the boss as soon as possible. So yeah, it's one of those things that like frustrated me, because people will go after, like you said, they go after the parse, and they don't do mechanics. And I don't think people realize the more that's why like speedrunning and like speed kills, when everybody does the mechanic as fast as possible, that means everybody gets to get back to what they were doing as fast as possible, instead of having people like rip off and like go back and like spend more time on something, right? Because now you're having like one of your top DPS spend a lot of time on a flare, and then having to target swap instead of everybody just swap, do one thing, and then swap back. It's just way faster to do it that way. So it's yeah, it's pretty insane how how that ends up happening.
Yeah, I remember like people used to send me KT passes sometimes. They'd be like, oh, they got that 99 KT, and I look at the pass,
0 kicks?
I'm like, yeah, 0 kicks. Where were your kicks, man? Where were your kicks? And meanwhile, I look at the list and I'm like, oh, so you're telling me every other melee here did 2 to 3 interrupts, and you didn't even attempt to kick once. You just sat there and never kicked. So those guys should be the real heroes, not your pass, because you didn't do anything on the fight. But yeah, I mean, speaking of logs and such, since we're on the topic, we can hop into the rogue topic that I brought today, which is that guys, if you want actual data on how bad it is to play a dagger rogue, in particular mutilate rogue, let's have a look at the actual data here. So I pulled up the info here. So this is in the last 2 weeks. I can even change this to 1 week if we want to be a little bit more up to date. And you can see like the average here is a lot more than the 10% that people think. So the median here is 675, and then if you drop down to assassination roads, so that's combat to assassination. Assassination is your mutilate tree. You're dropping down to 592 as your median, and That's quite a substantial increase over, because people look at my numbers and they just don't listen to the context when I give the numbers. When I say 5% is the on paper loss, I always tell them like that's the on paper loss. It's going to be more than the on paper loss because of mechanics and because of how your rotation changes and losses in everywhere else. So if you look at the actual on paper loss, it's like 10% or more that you're losing, and 10% is a big deal. If you've ever tried to compete with someone who's got one world buff on you, it makes a big difference.
No DMF, dude.
Yeah, it's like not having DMF basically. Like have fun competing with everyone else without DMF buff when everyone has DMF buff. So yeah, and this is just like one example. I'm actually going to make a longer video, I think, about it. Wildhead, don't steal my topic. I know you guys do this. I know some weird Wildhead people in the chat who like to report on hot topics.
Well, now they're gonna.
Now they're definitely gonna do it. Yeah, now they're definitely gonna do it. Yeah. But seriously speaking, Wildhead guys, if you guys could add a little news filter, I would really appreciate it, because I see you guys have gone the route of making very clickbaity topics sometimes to get more clicks, which I understand. You guys get paid by the click. I understand that. But if you guys could make a news filter section, so I can just, like, sometimes I'm trying to find news and then there's like topics which have nothing to do with news, like telling me how to make an alt. I don't feel that belongs in a news category. So if you guys could, like, a special request from Sno would make my life easier. But yeah. So little side tangent, but yeah. So assassination rogues bad. Assassination rogues bad. Really, really bad. And subtlety rogues, not even relevant. Don't do that, guys. Don't even do that. So like I've been talking.
Sometimes you don't want to respec, you know. Sometimes you just want to be PvP spec.
I've been talking to some people who people have been asking me whether I'm an elitist when it comes to the whole dagger rogue thing, because I'm pretty harsh on dagger rogues that come up to me and ask me if they should play daggers. But I explained this last week as well, that it's more of a respect for the rest of your guild thing. And I look at it more from the perspective of the raid leader that has benched multiple warriors and other people that wanted to play with the guild. You just cut down your roster to 25. Then you have like the rogue who you're bringing along, who kind of sucks in phase 1 compared to the other classes, and he now he doesn't even want to play the one class spec that he can to contribute to the raid so that he can expose armor. It's pretty disrespectful, honestly, I say.
Ungrateful. I gave him this spot. This fucking rogue. He could be a warlock or a hunter.
Yeah, and some people sometimes message me and say, "Hey, Sno, but my guild's totally okay with it," and that's cool. If you're in the casual guild, that's totally cool. That's fine. But if you're not in a casual guild, you're in a semi-hardcore guild or higher, you're going to have resentment, even if no one says it. There's people, I guarantee you, there's people in the guild who look at you and think, "Oh man, why do we bring that guy? He refuses to even spec the way we're trying to spec to get the good exposed armors easily without killing his DPS." And
and if you're a rogue, you still want to do as good as possible. You want to make people go, "Damn, this rogue is good for a rogue." Like,
yeah, exactly. Just like when I got my DST, which we can talk about in a little bit.
Tastes like salty tears already. Oh man.
But yeah, speaking of classes that aren't good, I got a DST, guys. I got a DST. So this is a little screenshot
on your hunter, right? On your hunter. Not your
so people saw this photo and they laughed because I'm in like a lot of greens and such. But I can explain, guys. I can explain. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I can explain. I didn't grind gear.
Someone captioned this. I can't remember. Someone said this to a video like, "Show me your streamer without saying you're a streamer." That's the caption for my photo. But no. Like, I got this because this was in a guild raid 2 run. This was in a guild raid 2 run, and we had a mix of first timers versus people who had hit 70 like for the week 1 of the raids and such. So only the set people that were there since week 1, who they know that were gonna come every week, versus like people who just randomly showed up out of nowhere, were allowed to roll. And we did have like 4 to 5 people roll. I just happened to have good dice that day, and I rolled and I won. So I think they allowed hunters, rogues, and warriors who had been there since week 1 and who were consuming to roll. And then I outrode the hunters. So go Sno. Perfectly acceptable. I have replaced most of this gear, by the way. Well, not most of it, but some of it. I've
including
run
the DST. Like that.
I've run Shattered Halls so many times, and my gloves refuse to drop. I'm sick of Shattered Halls because
do they even drop? Like, I swear to God, they don't drop in normal. It's like I have not seen them.
I hate that because it's such a long instance as well. It's one of those instances that feels longer because if you have a bad group, it goes like twice as long.
Yeah, it feels long, and also the other thing too is there's hallways that are exactly the same, so it like doesn't feel like you're progressing. You know, you're kind of just like, oh yeah, we're at this hallway. Is it, which one is it? Like, is this the second hallway we've been in? And then when you do it multiple times a day, you're like, where are we? Where am I in this instance? Because I've had to grind that for rep multiple times on multiple characters now. And good lord, dude, those hallways with the gauntlets, because there's multiple gauntlets in it. I'm just like, I can't, dude.
I will say it is one of those instances where I specifically look for paladin tanking if I'm doing a plug.
Oh, yeah.
Because going in there with a warrior is not fun. Unless they're a really good warrior, you can handle it. But man, like the average pug warrior, they get destroyed in that dungeon. Like they can't hold aggro at all.
Dude, playing my warrior and leveling my warrior, I was like, okay, you know, I'm like doing all right. I actually had a group where like I had to like do the whole goalie thing where you're like you get as many mobs as possible, and then when one of them rips off you, you change targets, taunt it back to you. Another one starts running away. You like fucking turn around, mocking blow. Another one runs away. You intervene to the guy that it's like on. And then another one runs away and you intercept that one, taunt that one. Like, you just have to keep doing that over and over again. And then people are like, wow, this tank, you're the best tank we've had in like the entirety of Classic. I'm like, I'm fucking losing aggro left and right. And they're like, no, literally, you're so much better than like the other tanks that we play with. And I'm like, who the fuck are you playing with? Like, I'm like scared for like the quality of tank. Then I go play my elemental shaman, and now I fucking understand. I've been telling you guys, like, Paladin is the best tank hands down, especially in like, you know, dungeons. But like, good fucking God, like I will like sit there and I'll lightning bolt the one target like 3 times. Like, I have a rule. It's like Paladins, I will 1 lightning bolt, then chain lightning. Druids, I'll do 2 lightning bolts, chain lightning. Warriors, it was 3 lightning bolts, chain lightning. Now it's like 4 lightning bolts, and then we'll see. Like, I don't chain lightning with the fucking warriors. It's a no-go. It just, they walk up, thunderclap, and think that's fine. And yeah, there are some people out there who don't understand the class at all. Like, it's pretty bad.
I mean, it's actually fascinating the amount of times I've been asked a question from people who say, hey, Sno, my guild warrior is complaining about exposed armor because he thinks he can't get threat if I'm exposed armoring. And then I have to like explain to him to show this link from the threat mechanics. And then the whole time I'm thinking, man, your main tank doesn't understand how just the basic threat mechanics work. That's really worrying. But I guess there's a lot of warriors out there who don't understand the basic mechanics of how the threat stuff works. So I guess it's more common of an issue. But yeah, speaking of the DST stuff, DST by far the most noticeable change in gear I have ever experienced since I started playing WoW again. Actually, the most noticeable change, because haste is so noticeable. It's insane. Every time the DST procs, like, I get a little happy inside because I just see,
I'm in green.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, look at all the procs. Look at all the procs. And I'm getting like the combat potency procs, which smooth out my rotation. I'm like, just the feel of the game feels different because I'm hitting so much faster. I can see my offhand hits going off. It's actually game changing feel, because now I have one rogue that doesn't have DST and one rogue that has it, and it's a world of difference just from a feeling perspective of how I play the game. It's so different.
And if you aren't somebody who plays for, like, this is like literally the origin of my elemental shaman. If you aren't somebody who plays for parse and you play for feel, like, you play the game to feel fucking good, right? Like I play my warrior to feel fucking miserable. I play my rogue to feel even worse. My elemental shaman exists as a pure dopamine character. Like the character should have just been named crack in my straight in my veins, because that's what that character is. My gemming, my bis list for that character. I look at everybody's like the top elemental shamans. They all have like spell hit, or not spell hit. They have like a spell damage, right? They're all using red, like living ruby spell damage. I'm like, we're going crit. So like my bis list is like 40% unbuffed crit, because I just want to sit there and just have crits injected into my fucking veins. Like just sit there and just like elemental mastery, like chain lightning, just lightning bolt over and over again, just have clear cast and keep going off. I play for the fucking feel, dude. That's the time where I just put aside the min max and I go, this is gonna feel great. And so like haste is exactly the same thing, right? Because what haste does with procs is haste just gets you more procs, right? I was like talking to this really good warlock player, Horde, and he was telling me about like a proc build he has where it's like he's got like Quagmire's Eye, he's got like 2 piece of I think the Spellfire or whatever it is, the spell strike, and he's like stacking procs over and over again, because he's like, yeah, the more haste you have, the more things will like be likely to proc, and then that will proc other things. So his haste procs proc his haste procs, which proc his haste procs. And I'm just like, wait a second, this is like how warriors want and rogues want to play, right? With the mace and everything, right? Yeah. So yeah, feel is a really big thing, and I think like when things feel good, even if they aren't necessarily better, but you know usually they are. Sometimes at the end of the day, feely craft is all about the feel and not the craft. It doesn't have to be better. It just has to feel better. That's my philosophy. That's been my TED Talk.
I mean, speaking of actually being better or not being better, we had this topic come up in my guild actually, because we were talking about our DST prio, because I have DST on one character, but my other guild, the thing is, my guild's been very nice in that we didn't cut anyone really. We kind of let the classes be what they are, and then we'll deal with it along as we go, because we hope at least that's the right classes drop off along the way, and then we just don't recruit that class, and hopefully by phase 3 or whatever we end up with a decent comp, which has worked out so far actually. We've cut down on a lot of the classes that we don't need so far. But we had a whole long DST discussion, and it's tricky because I don't know how much you factor in pre-TBC loot decisions into TBC loot allocations, because we got into this topic where we've given my guild's had crazy luck. We've had 2 DSTs in a row, and we gave both to hunters so far, because a big part of the reason was that, well, the hunters got screwed in like a lot of classic. They didn't get much loot. But then I was also the thought, I don't know, we should factor that in, because it's a new expansion. You've got new people in the guild as well who weren't there. People are class swapping as well. It's one of those things where I'm not sure if we should actually factor in our past decisions into TBC loot now. What are your thoughts there?
Past decisions as in like, this guy got first Gressel, he can wait on DST?
Yeah, kind of like that. So
like this guy's been in the guild a long time.
So to give an example is like one of the reasons why we prio the hunters, we actually have roughly equalish prio between the hunters, rogues, and warriors. But the reason we gave the DST to 2 hunters first is because
dick since AQ.
Yeah, since AQ they basically hadn't gotten jack all, and they'd been with the guild since since forever, and that was kind of to make up for the fact that the entire next phase was basically no loot besides tier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that honestly, it makes a little bit of sense to me, but at the same time, I'm sitting there going, well, I think that the thing that I would consider is, you know, just like anything else you would do with a normal loot council is, if this person's been here a long time, I don't think it's a fresh reset. I think doing a fresh reset is a little bit strange, because you're also in a guild that you've contributed to the longevity of, right?
Yeah.
Like, who knows if Sno had quit the guild, maybe the guild will have fallen apart months ago. Yeah, like you can't like, you know, because there's like butterfly effect and everything, but you can't like allocate too much like responsibility to each person. but at the same time, you have to at least understand that they contributed to the lasting of the guild, the longevity, that they made it so that you guys have cleared Nax multiple times, right? So like the success of the guild is tied to the members that were there when that happened. So I do think that it's like you don't completely discount it, but you don't weigh it, I think, too much in the future. I think right now, because you have nothing else to go off of, you have to use it. Because I think doing like I said, a fresh start is just like, that's way too unsettling to the veteran members, where they're just like, I've never seen this guy in my life. Who's this retail PvPer in here? Like, what the fuck are we? Why is he getting DST over me? Then you feel like it's kind of like a little too like biased towards new people. So yeah, people who like help make the guild, keep the guild going, all of that should just be rewarded right now, and then you can get more and more performances under people's belts in this phase, and then move into Serpentine Cavern and Tempest Keep with more data as a loot council. So that's how I would do things, or at least think about things, because I just don't like doing fresh. I think doing fresh right now is too dismissive to the people of the past. So
okay,
I know it's a new game. But at the same time, it's the same guild.
The interesting thing looking forward as well is because we got into this discussion as well, where we were saying, okay, when do the warriors, the hunters, the rogues have an alternative to DST then, if they don't get the DST? So this is something else we were talking in our Discord for like an hour, because we have just way too many people who need DST.
So before you reveal, my thought is that rogues and warriors never replace it, and that hunters may. But like that's my preface. I don't know. What do you actually find out?
Well, I mean, there's two factors. There's the one that when they replace it, or if they replace it, and then the other factor is also what is the like second item that if they don't get DST, when do they get an item that's close to DST at least? So it's honestly really tricky for the hunters. I think the other classes are more cut and dry, but when I tried to get data from hunters, it was really tricky, because some hunters tell me tsunami trinket really, really good, and then other hunters will tell me, nah, this is trash, I don't want that, it's got to be DST all the way. And then I looked at their sims, and then man, the hunters, you guys gotta get the chip off your shoulder sometimes when people are trying to get data, because sometimes it's really hard to get data when people are telling me to take like a sim that says you do 4,000 damage consistently, and say, okay, DST is a 900 DPS increase, and then I ask them like, is that accurate? And then like another sim comes out a week later, and I look at it and like, wait, this sim says DST is only a 10 DPS increase. Which number do I take? And then every time I ask, it's always I always get a reply, oh, you take the one that's higher. Is this one? This one's correct. It is like,
are you asking hunters?
Yeah,
hunters like,
exactly. I'm in the hunter Discord trying to get information sometimes, and it's like,
you take the one that's higher and you show it to your GM, okay? Just make the argument. Just take the fucking one that's higher. Just keep quiet.
It's so hard to get good information. So at some point, I just had to discount a lot of stuff and just be like, okay, this is a decent increase for them. I'll just weigh it, I guess, evenly with other classes, because I can't seem to get reliable data here. It's all over the place as far as they're telling me what the DPS increases are. So
yeah, like, dude, I guess my question is like, to hunters, you guys are the best class in the game at single target, and you will be the entirety of the game, right? So it really, like, what do you care about more? Your single target damage, right? I think so. It's like burst windows and stuff, right? If you don't care about that, then your class is like lower tier in terms of like overall damage. It's like, I would say third, fourth, or something like that. But it really comes down to that. And I feel like a lot of hunters, like you said, are very sensitive to questions about their class or criticism, because I think they kind of want to be like the Warriors of Classic, where like nobody fucking questions them, kind of thing, right? Which is like, granted, Warriors of Classic is just an OP busted class in general, right? But I don't think hunters are on that exact same level. And there's a lot of like, they aren't the best trash DPS and boss DPS. And they have like a very specific role. And I think hunters have probably, like, this is just my observation, I think hunters are kind of, like you said, since they hadn't gotten things since like Blackwing Lair, really, I think they're kind of like trying to, the people who had at least played hunter, get some of that back.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I get that.
they're trying to like get some of that back. They're like, dude, you guys have dicked us for so long. Like, really? Like another expansion? Like, we're the best right now. Like, are you really gonna do this? Like, come on. And I get that. I actually get that, because when you're being like disregarded for so long, it's frustrating, right? It's frustrating. It's not fun by any regard. So I totally understand that, but I think that your class doesn't get everything just because they are hunters, right? I know that warriors got to do that for the last 2 years and 2.5, whatever, and it's not been fun. But I think honestly, you do need to kind of come to the realization of your class has a role, and you are like a damage dealer on bosses. So whatever's going to give you the most damage on bosses in Windows is probably what you should play for or prioritize, because right now full clears don't matter anyway, right? So I don't know if DST is your best trinket on bosses, right? Like, because you can time things with rapid fire and stat cooldowns and use heroism at the same time, right? Or have bloodlust come in. I'm actually not sure. So there may be a way to not use DST and still get a high parse, because it's a little proc based, right? But that's like, once again, very hard to get data on these things right now, and I wish it weren't.
Yeah, the hunter rotation's interesting as well, because there's also the argument that the worse the hunter, the less they'll utilize DST well, because they have to adjust for the haste rotation, right? Yeah, the hunter rotation changes based on their haste. So it's one of those things as well where the less good of a guild you're in, the more likely it is that the hunter is not going to adjust for the DST proc, and they're not going to actually utilize the rotation properly and not get the benefits of the DST. So
our best hunter that got DST is like, he's a gamer. His name is Neebs. He literally he's rolled like, I think he has like 4 hunters. I think he has like 3 or 4 hunters. He rolled these during Classic. He was a warrior who re-rolled Hunter and did all of Rain's pulls in our speed runs. And he played Hunter in all of our raids, so he did all of the pulling in all of our raids. He's like doing shit now, like melee weaving on Mag Theridin. And since he's like, Hunter leader, he's like, we're not assigning hunters to be box clickers anymore, right? Because like, and if you are a hunter who's assigned to click a box during Mag Theridin, you have to click like the closest box to Mag Theridin, no running across the room to do it, because he's trying to get people to melee weave. Because it is actually a DPS increase when you do it well, and Mag Theridin is one of the bosses that you can practice it on and get it down, because he's just a puppet. He's just he sits there, right? So there's stuff like that too, where people are going to start throwing in melee weaving and the practicality of it, and he's trying to make it as like practical and applicable as possible, and actually like assign things around Hunter's melee weaving, which is a really new kind of thing for people. So that's another thing with Sims, is how much melee weaving are you going to be doing, right? Like, and that's the other thing too, is it feels like whenever you talk to a hunter, it's always like, first it's defensive, then it's offensive, and then it's melee weaving. Like those are the 3 stages of hunter attack, dude. It's like you talk to them about, it's like, what do you think about DST Pro? It should definitely go to fucking hunters. I don't know what to do. Like, they're the best class in the game. And then it's like, well, what are you talking about? It shouldn't go to rogues. You guys are garbage. What are warriors? What are you talking? And then it's like, we're the best class. You guys are shit. You should sit down. And then it gets to the point where it's just like, and we're not even talking about melee weaving. It's like, I'm like, God damn it. And like the thing about when people talk about melee weaving is it's so hard to argue against right now, because you'll be like, but it's not really like doable in all the fights. And they're like, not if you're bad. Okay. All right. I understand. I may not understand the intricacies of melee weaving like you might, Mr. Hunter. I don't know where the conversation goes from here. And it's like, it's over. Give me DST. Like it just this section is on how arguing with hunters. It's hard. It's hard to do. Like, so you were talking about, like, I got us a little derailed, but you were talking about the differences in trinkets. So like the Sims will tell you different things, but like what are you finding through all of the shit?
Okay.
What did you dive through the lake of shit for the candy bar at the bottom? Snow. What candy bar is it? What is that? Okay. What is there?
So what I'm finding, depending on how hunters feel about Tsunami, it seems there's kind of different sides on that. If Tsunami is good, hunters and warriors, if they both like Tsunami, will have a good replacement coming up next phase. It's like but that kind of depends. The hunters are kind of divided there. Some say it's trash, some say it's
Good replacement.
In that it's something they can get instead of a DST in
Okay.
like it's similar kind of DPS. Although that's very debated in the hunter Discord from what I've seen. A lot of them don't like Tsunami, but rogues do not actually have something equivalent until we get the Zao trinket. So we get Warp Spring Coil.
Here's the thing about Warp Spring Coil is it's literally uncontested.
Yeah, it's
like Warp Spring Coil drops, it's yours, right? Yeah. So it's like going to be your static trinket or one of your static trinkets no matter what. And having a static, like if you don't have DST, you will get Warp Spring Coil, and then you'll have Warp Spring Coil and like Bloodlust Brooch, right?
Okay. Yeah.
The Zolomon trinket, is that Berserker's Call?
Berserker's Call, yes. Yeah. Yeah. So the next one where we can get a trinket kind of in that DPS range will be the Zalomon trinket. So that's phase, I think it's 4. Is it 4 for that trinket?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Zolomon is its own phase for us to adjust to drums.
So yeah, there's a little bit of a lag there. So that's at least why like the rogues really want. We don't really have that big ticket because one of the discussions we had is to try to make it easier on the poor loot officers who are trying to figure out, okay, who do we give the DST to if everyone's in each class row is pumping? How do we decide who gets it? And they started taking requests and saying, okay, if someone can take a step back on DST, we'll maybe assign them a big ticket item next phase first. They can kind of get that prio on the Tsunami Talisman if they want, or they can be higher there. And
DST or Glaives, motherfucker, which is one. Oh, God damn it.
And it was like, I don't think rogues have that big ticket item coming up. I mean, there's Warp Spring Call, but you just get defaulted that. There's no competition there. So, yeah, when I was looking at like, well, if I give up DST, what do I prio instead? And there wasn't really anything for me to aim for. It was kind of like there's weapons, but if you're a decent rogue, you should be doing arena anyway and getting your weapons there. So yeah, that's why I'm in my guild. I'm staying fairly high on trinket prio. Although guys, don't look at me like some DST craze guy because I want 2 DSTs.
He said it.
I actually did take a step back. I said like, just give me the chest earlier for this phase, and you can bump me down 1 notch on the DST prio to make it a little bit easier on the officers who have a really tough time now deciding between like 4 warriors and 2 more hunters and 2 rogues and such to try to assign the DST. But
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I will say that if your guild is good, and this is why I was okay with taking a step back on the DST for my second rogue, is because we're going to be running the gruel splits for until everyone gets a DST, basically. Like, our guild has no plan to stop running gruel until we basically get everyone a DST. The same way that we kind of ran Onyxia for God knows how long. To get everyone Onyxia stuff. So my guild plans to just keep running grow until everyone who needs DST gets DST is our plan. So even if you take a step back, you probably end up with DST. It may come like in phase 2 sometime for all we know, but at least in my guild, we're all going to get DST eventually. It's just a question of what order you get them in. Unless you get really unlucky. Hopefully that doesn't happen.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Is being on a loot council, you can only deal with the loot that's in front of you. Like, that's the thing, is a lot of loot councils like forward thing, but you can literally only deal with the loot that's right in front of you at the time. Sometimes you get overwhelmed with the loot and you're just like, well, I don't know what we do with this DST. Everybody's kind of got it. Do you want it, Mr. Tank? And that's a good place to be, but it's not always the case, right? Sometimes you're sitting there going, well, we haven't seen a DST in months, boys, and I don't know how you start like bargaining with people and being like, okay, so DST hasn't dropped. Do you want to change your prio on it and like go for this thing and then like drop it prio or whatever? Or he's been waiting for a long time. I don't know. I started treating on loot council. I think one of the smartest things you do is if a piece of loot drops, you have to treat it like it's the only one that's ever going to drop. Or what do you do with it, kind of thing? Given the circumstances that like the current loot state everybody has, because I can't tell you how mad it makes people when they've just been waiting for a piece of loot and then they see other loot fly by their head while they're waiting for it. That's the thing that like It's just like it's a wisdom thing at this point where I'm wise beyond my years in loot council because I've just been in the hyperbolic chamber of doing multiple loot councils at once and seeing everybody be mad about everything. It's like, what do you do? You can only handle the things that you currently have, not the things that you may have in the future, but potentially never ever have. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, sometimes you just get
so hard.
the crazy RNG as well, where it just doesn't drop. My guild actually, main raid has never seen an AQR drop ever. In all the time we did AQ, even when we were going back in the next phase, we never saw AQR drop once. Didn't drop a single time for our main raid. So sometimes you get unlucky like that.
Yeah, it's if one raid is like showered in DSTs, then one of them has to be a raid somewhere that literally gets none for the entire expansion, right?
Yeah, I will say though, the easiest way to decide who's not getting DST is to unfortunately be on the loot council and then have to take a step back. That's what's happening to one of our rogues, I think, because now he's an officer. He's like, oh well, I guess I don't get the early DST prior to make sure there's no shenanigans going on. I think he's probably up for first warglaves though. I think he's probably up for first warglaves, so I think he'll get his back later. But yeah, if you're on the loot council, you don't get early loot to avoid any suspicions of corruption.
Yep, it's not like that. Being on the loot council, you gotta take a step back, right? Like we talked about this. We talked about this like a few episodes ago, right?
Yeah, we did.
Where it's like being on the leadership is sacrifice. Being on a loot council means that you should be taking a step back and being like, okay, that's all right. I have the privilege on being on the loot council and serving you guys, which means no DST for me until it's dropped twice. Like it's like if you give the first one to yourself, you literally sound like that fucking laddie sound clip where it's like, "Grats me, boys." We meme that so hard in raid now. Like whenever like something drops and the raid leader takes it, you're like, "Grats me, boy," and he even starts saying it now. I love that sound clip, by the way. It's so good. Oh, shout out to Laddie. I actually love Laddie. Oh man. The Grats Me Boys always sound so bad, dude. See, somebody just said, Maggie Boy said, privilege of loot council. Haha, most of the time, it's a burden. It is, but that's why there's privileges that come with it, right? Because it is such a burden. And people on the outside won't understand that, like, you lose sleep, you have to deal with a bunch of complaints, you have to spend way more time out of game dealing with stuff than in game. The luxury people have of not having to deal with problems, they don't always understand that you don't have that luxury, but you do have some privilege that should outweigh it in your mind to some degree. But people who sacrifice that privilege are the best loot council members.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the trickiest things about loot council is that sometimes you have people who aren't logically thinking about the loot. Like there's a lot of emotional loot decisions people make, and sometimes you're trying to do the logical decision, but the person might just want that item. Like he doesn't care if it's like not the logical decision. He just wants that item, and then you, like, what do you do there if he's like one of your core players and he's really good, but he just wants that one item? Like then you got to navigate. Okay, does he give up this other item? Is that gonna mess up the loot prior for that other item? Then now we got to reshuffle all the other stuff in my head, like where that piece is going. It's a headache, man. It's why I've never taken any officer position that I've been offered. I'm just not going down that road. Definitely.
Do you know how hard it is? Do you know how hard it is to be an officer in a guild where you have a streamer in the guild and you like them and you're friends with them and you're in charge of the loot that they get? If not only do you have to deal with them, you have to deal with their chat too, right? I love Payo.
Oh god! And I was wondering if you were going down this road. Okay.
See, here's the thing: is I think my relationship with Payo got completely ruined because I had a bunch of people tell me to like remove him from the raid, and so I did. And then I was going to talk to him afterwards, and he saw that I removed him before I got to talk to him, and he thinks like I did it like backhandedly. And I'm like, no, people just wanted him kind of removed now, and I knew he was like doing other stuff, so I was just like, I'm just going to get rid of it now. I'm going to talk to him later. So obviously he logs on and then just has this big fit, and I never get to talk to him. So I think my relationship with Payo is completely ruined because he would AFK and raid. It wasn't that his DPS was like terrible or anything like that, but there were ass pulls and things like that. I remember one time at Broodlord, we were like going to pull Broodlord, and like I'm like I did a ready check or something like that, and we go to pull, and then I go check on his stream, and he's fucking dancing. He's just fucking dancing on his stream, and I'm like, yeah, and we pull, and he's still dancing, and then he like ass pulls a bunch of whelps into us in the middle of it, and I'm like, what the fuck, bro? Like, what the, like. I had a like the thing too is I was in a raid with a lot of Europeans, and the Europeans just don't like that shit. Like, I don't know why, they just don't like that at all. Like, people like watching a streamer like Payo is really enjoyable, but being in the same raid as them, having to lead it, is so fucking hard, dude. I think he's gotten kicked from like Asmon's raid before on like when they were doing something on like I don't know if it was retail or what, but oh man, it's Oh, wait, did you guys see the clip of his Tauren Warrior where he pulled on K? Yeah, where people pulled KT and he hadn't moved forward yet, and then all the skeletons spawn and like.
I did see that.
Imagine, all right, imagine being in charge of this motherfucker's loot, okay? Imagine being in charge of their loot, and then the conversation is always, Dark Edge of Insanity? I'm a hunter. I want the Dark Edge. I PvP. That's all I play for. Okay. And I'm like, okay. How do we have the conversation that this guy, even though he's taken some loot, he wants it too, and he hasn't wiped us 3 times or given me a headache. Wow. Okay. This is going to be a hard conversation. It's bad, dude. It's because I like Payo and I had like a good relationship with him, but I think it's like completely ruined because I had to be in charge of his loot, and that was just bad. I'm like just first and foremost, like, apologies to Payo if he ever sees this. I actually like him as a guy, and I like him as a dude, but I just think it's just too hard to fucking deal with having a streamer be an entertainer while raiding, and that's why like one of the things that me as a streamer, I don't err on the side of entertainment. I err on the side of trying to play the game. Right? And I feel like whenever I interact with chat, it just gets harder and harder to play the game well. So some people be like, why is he so silent? And I'm just like, I'm trying to play. I'm literally trying to main tank a speedrun Nax right now. And you know, like I have no time for this. It's like, so why are you streaming and not just making a YouTube video? And I'm like, you're fucking right, but I don't have time for this. Oh God. But yeah, no, I love Payo, but goddamn, dude, Snow, being in charge of a streamer's loot, don't ever do it, dude. Not just don't be on a loot council. It's just don't be in charge of a streamer's loot, because even then, when the item drops, like, I actually pray that the item that they want never drops, so I never have to deal with it. So I never have to tell them no, and then I never have to have their viewers tell me what the fuck.
Yeah, I mean, to again state that if Payo ever sees this, we're both fans of Payo. I think on an entertainment aspect of things. It's just that yeah, sometimes I get that as well. Like, even though I'm like a tiny streamer relative to Payo, Payo's huge, and I'm like a tiny streamer. I think at least my guild is happy that because I've done so much loot council stuff in the past and all that. I'm usually pretty understanding with that stuff. So I usually tell my chat if I don't get something, it's like, oh, no, it's fine. It's because of this happened, and it's fine. Like, and my chat's pretty chill. But it's funny, like on a side topic, the whole Payo thing, because sometimes I talk about how much I actually like Payo stream on when I'm just streaming, because we're playing WoW and you got to talk about something.
It's good. It's good to all right. So I equate it to like you ever watch the TV show Community?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
So Jeff Winger in Community, the lawyer, he's an asshole, right? He's like an asshole. He's really sarcastic. He's very dismissive. If you were one of those people in that friend circle in real life, you wouldn't be his friend. You'd be like, this guy's kind of being a dick. Like, but it's interesting to watch, right? Because television and things like that are situations that you wouldn't put yourself into, but you get to watch other people experience it without the repercussions of it. So when you watch somebody who's in a raid, who's not playing the fucking raid, you get to watch it and enjoy it, but then you don't have to experience the repercussions of being in a raid where somebody's not fucking doing their job and it's frustrating to you, right? So, like, the people who are in the raid with him, even like when Asmin or somebody else does something in a raid where like what was it? S-Fan fucking walks away from S-Fan's, like they're starting the opera event or something like that, and he's gonna like press a green screen button, walk off screen out of his and go like, boys, we're here. We're at the opera event. Is it gonna be Romulo and Julianne? And they're fucking pulling the boss. He's like, "Where's the big bad wolf? Am I gonna get my sword this week? Like, we've downed this boss before. We're gonna down it again." And they're like already killing it. And you're like, and maybe it's Wizard of Oz. It is Wizard of Oz. We're gonna get back to, and he just, it's shit like that where you're like, if you were in the raid with him, you just look over your shoulder and you're like, "What's this fucking ret paladin doing? Like, he's not. What is he doing? What? Like, and imagine having this person be in charge of a buff that needs to be applied to you. It's like, it's pretty bad. You need like a good multitasker, like hyper, like ADHD motherfucker, right? Stay Safe is the biggest streamer who still plays 100% in raid and doesn't worry about entertaining, I think. Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't say for sure. I wouldn't discount all other streamers, but yeah, there are people who do focus on the raid and are big. And then there are people who focus on the entertainment aspect or who are entertaining while they play. But I'm just saying that being in a raid with an entertainer, you have to know and understand what you're signing up for. Because it can be bad. It can be really bad, especially when you perceive them as doing less than you in terms of overall contribution, and they're getting more because they're a streamer, right? Because they're in the guild, and it's like, well, you why is he getting this piece of loot? He does less damage than me. He contributes less. I'm on the loot council, and like, yeah, the conversations are nobody wants to say because they're a streamer, but the answer sometimes is because they're a streamer, and that's where like big bias comes in. And it's just a fucking weird world. I would just say, just don't raid with streamers that are entertainers if you can help it, and unless you want to, right? Unless you really want to.
Yeah, I mean, if you join a streamer guild, then you know what you're getting into, right? If you join a streamer guild, then that's what you guys signed up for. If you join the streamer guilds,
yeah,
and it can be fun as long as you're not there to like min max to the most. It can be fun in some settings.
Shroud seems to prefer not streaming WoW, which I respect. The dude's just playing the game. So here's the thing: is I actually think Shroud, interestingly enough, is one of my favorite like streamers to watch when he's playing WoW. He does play Elemental Shaman, so obviously, fucking crack lightning. Like watching him play, he's a good player. He tries really hard. He got to play Ellie for a long time in Nax. But like, he's the type of player that even though he was playing WoW for like fun, there's the story of Shroud spending thousands of dollars to get a private jet back so he can play with his guild for BWL on launch day, right? Like, this is somebody who loves the game, who plays the game to play it because he loves it. And I really respect that. And I understand how bad it is to stream it, because like obviously like I would definitely make more money or have more viewers if I streamed League of Legends, or if I did just chatting again with my friends or collab meta. Like, it's something that you actively have to choose not to do and avoid being more successful to play the game, which is probably like detrimental or hurtful to you or your career or your future or whatever. But it's a fucking game I love and I'm fucking addicted to it. So it's like, yeah, making bad decisions. But one of the things too that I noticed, like somebody like Asmin and Soda Poppin do, is they've made like an off channel, right? They made a second channel that's a little harder to find, but it's the channel where they won't cam, they'll just stop down, play WoW, and maybe they'll interact with chat, or Soda plays with like a 15-minute delay or something like that, and we'll be like ganking people in Stormwind, and that's stuff that I low-key kind of like, and I kind of wish that Shroud would do, because a lot of people don't like streaming WoW on their main channel because it lowers their numbers, right? Because when you're a big streamer, you have to go to companies or sponsors and be like, here's my pitch deck, here it is, these are my stats, this is my last month, this is my overall, these are my average viewers, right? And if you have to go like, these are my average viewers when I'm not streaming World of Warcraft, this is what it looks like when I'm not streaming World of Warcraft, and yeah, my channel is very successful when I'm not streaming World of Warcraft, and it's like, having an asterisk is kind of mad. You just kind of like had to make a second channel, right? So it's it's shitty, but it kind of is what it is, Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to talk about like why that's why when people talk bad about, like, for example, like sometimes people will say like, I hate Payo, like why do you like him so much? I look at it and I think, no man, Payo is an amazing entertainer. He's a great
Oh, yeah.
streamer. He's successful as one of the best, if not the best, classic streamer, like one of the most popular ones, because he's able to turn this game into something really interesting no matter what he's doing. He's
Mhm.
able to turn, and that's something most people in the WoW category cannot do. It's a very hard thing to do. WoW, like
Yep.
I think we said this last podcast as well, that WoW is a very hard game to stream and be entertaining because there's so much just downtime and boring stuff that you're doing. And Payo is one of the few that is able to somehow make it entertaining, even when he's just doing nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a skill. That's like it's kind of I want to say there's like a threshold where at one point you used to just have to be good at video games to get viewers. Like I want to say like 5-6 years ago, you just had to be good at video games to get viewers. Like I want to say like 5-6 years ago. Now it's no longer enough. You have to be an entertainer. And in fact, being more entertaining than you are good at video games is still very likely to net you success. And if you are just good at video games, very rarely do you become a top streamer anymore, just purely based on your skill, right? Very few. Now, there are people who will do this 100%.
Yeah.
But in order to survive, in order to have career longevity, you have to move into entertainment instead of just being good at things all the time, right? Shroud is one of the exceptions, of course, very, very good at games, and people watch him for that. But it's kind of like we talked about this with education, right? Entertainment is definitely going to sell more than education, especially on a website that's streaming. So yeah, it's a weird place to be, but being entertaining is way better career wise than being good at the game from a Twitch perspective.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean,
which is a strange thing to say.
To give an example in the streaming space for WoW, I noticed Meh. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. I always wonder if I'm saying his name right. He's gotten the giant boost from being
Mir?
basically Mia, the number one PvP right now, basically the rogue number one PvP. He's rank 1 in the EU bracket. He went up to like 2600 already in twos, crazy high ratings already, and he's now averaging like 1.5 to 2K viewers, and even he who. I think he realizes, okay, I gotta do something about this before like it runs out. So he's already, I looked on his socials, he's already hiring YouTube editors and things. He's got to start the whole thing going because he's got to make it before this dies down. Because if he doesn't, then it's
strike
just
while the iron's hot.
Yeah, it's going to all go away. So
yeah, so you got to strike while the iron is hot, right? And that's like, I know it's a saying, but it's literally what you have to do. While your audience is malleable, while everything is warm, you have to use the hammer and mold it into what you want it to be. If you wait for it to cool off, it's going to be harder to do, potentially break, be impossible. So you have to strike while the iron is hot, right? You can't do it afterwards. So yeah, you have to take this opportunity, and it's a smart thing to do, right? Yeah. It's the best thing to do if you care about the longevity of your career in streaming.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
So.
Yeah, but yeah, so we got sidetracked a little bit, but speaking of Soda Poppin', I see people talking about Soda in the chat. He should be happy about this change, the Pharaoh Druid change. So they're fixing it. They're changing it. So they're disconnecting the energy changes from the consumable potions, so they don't have to do the stupid. Was it Troll's Blood? Was that the potion they were using? I can't remember. What
yes,
was it? I think it was.
Yes,
Troll's
major
Blood.
Troll's Blood potion.
Yeah, right. Druids were popping major Troll's Blood potions to time it with their tick to get the proper energy they needed when they were power shifting and all of that. So it looks like Blizzard has listened. They're going to change it. They're going to hopefully make the Druid very happy because it was a very scuffed mechanic to have. And people have been coming on my stream asking me how this affects rogues because it does say that it's changing energy regen. And one of the things that changed in TBC for rogues is that when you pop Adrenaline Rush, it refunds you your energy and resets your tick. So they were asking if this still happens. I actually hopped on the PTR and tested it. It still happens. So nothing changes for rogues. It seems like rogues are excluded from this change. We still
really
get
frustrating.
resets, yeah.
It's really frustrating because I don't know how to explain it, but like I feel like I always get less energy than I'm supposed to, right? Like I will like use Adrenaline Rush like right before the tick is about to go off, and I'll get like 12 energy or 13 energy. I never get like 19 or 18, and I don't know why. It just feels weird.
Yeah.
It feels like I'm like, I don't know if I'm like doing it wrong or what, but or I'll get like 10 energy and then a tick of 3 like right after. It'll be like boop boop, and I'm like,
Yeah, I've
why'd I get
basically given
13?
up trying to figure it out. I just pop my adrenaline rush whenever now because like I don't understand sometimes like how much energy I'm gonna get, and it's confusing that way. But yeah, that's how I've
But
adapted.
I guess my question is there any more an optimal time to pop adrenaline rush, or like because it resets your tick timer and it makes it individual, right? So like because adrenaline rush lasts 15 seconds, I'll always get 7 ticks of AR, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like I can
Yeah.
get like an extra tick.
I don't think you can
8.
get an extra tick, so I don't think it even really matters that much anymore. I think you just pop it whenever. Yeah, I don't think there's any benefit. Because for people that might be confused listening to this, rogues used to wait till the second half of your energy tick to pop adrenaline rush, because then it would guarantee that you get one more tick of the bonus adrenaline rush energy. But yeah, that is not a thing anymore because of this refund aspect.
Yeah,
so some rogues
because
were hoping,
energy. Yeah, because energy's on a 2-second tick timer and adrenaline rush is 15 seconds duration. If you used it early, you'd only get 7 ticks. If you used it late, and to your energy tick, you would get 8 ticks. So you would actually be able to get like
20 extra energy.
Yeah, you get 20 extra energy from it. Yeah, you get 20 extra energy from it.
But yeah, so that's the energy change anyway. It's at least the druids are happy though. I'm happy for them because I looked at the rotation.
Thank God.
I looked at the rotation and it didn't look fun. It didn't look fun at all.
The thing is overall, this is a top tier sweaty tryhard druid nerf. This is a nerf to the best druid in the world, right? This is the nerf to the druid who brought 200 potions with them, because the Troll's Blood potion actually ended up being a DPS increase based on what I had seen and what people are talking about with druid. So a lot of people are kind of mixed on this because obviously I feel like everybody should be happy, but there's people who are like, this is a DPS loss for a class that wasn't even good anyway, but it's going to bring up the floor. It's going to make it more enjoyable. Who wants to bring 200 fucking consumables to a raid? Not hunters. I mean, not druids.
I think we're forgetting that these are the same people that farmed 5,000 of those dungeon drops in the past in Classic in order to pass. Well, what was the item they farmed? I forgot what was the name of that item.
Manual crowd.
Yeah, the pummeler. Yeah, the crowd pummeler or whatever it was. And they had to farm those just nonstop in order to compete. So maybe they're just conditioned differently. The super top sweaty guys, they're just conditioned differently.
But I think overall druids are just going to be happy about this.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a better feel for, or rather, it's like gameplay wise. Unless you're like a crazy top 0.1%er, gameplay wise for everyone else, it's just better. I think it kind of reminds me of how Vanish got changed. Even though Vanish is kind of broken right now, guys. There's a lot of issues with Vanish. How Vanish batching got changed. In the batching changes, all your rogue abilities feel a lot nicer now with the batching removed, but we lost a little bit of power. The top end rogues actually got less powerful because we can't do as much fancy Vanish batching tricks and things. But on the whole,
I thought you were gonna say bullshit. I was like, the fancy Vanish bullshit. I was like, okay, it kind of is.
But yeah, so yeah, that was the change there. So hopefully, I think it's a good change overall. We'll see how that turns out. But at least Blizzard's listening, right? This is another check back into the column of, hey, Blizzard's listening, guys, and then hopefully they don't they don't do something crazy again, makes us regret saying that.
Look, Blizzard, if you're listening, Warriors are really fucking bad right now. All right, Warrior tanks. Fury Warriors, fucking great. They're like 3rd best DPS in the game, potentially higher in full clears. Great. Don't touch them. Let the good players play the class. Warriors, even for the good players, are still fucking very hard to play. And if you don't have Thunder Fury, you're screwed in dungeons. So, Blizzard, hear me out, okay? Make Imp Thunderclap either do more damage, generate more threat, hit an additional target or 2, or make Thunderclap scale with something that you stack defensively, like maybe shield block rating. So then it's not abused in like PvP or they buy an arms warrior. If Thunderclap can scale with something, because here's the problem. Right now, warriors are like myself are like kind of loading the gun and like don't know what to do with it. We're like wait a second. What do I just re-roll? Is a paladin gun? What do I do? And when you get to the point that you're just like, man, it's really hard to hold aggro. You sit there, you grit your teeth, and you go, it'll get better. It'll get better, right? The problem is paladins are only going to get better. They'll get more spell damage. Their itemization gets better. We stay about the same the entirety of the expansion, and warlocks only get stronger with Seed of Corruption. So for the sake of, I'm sure warlocks will like this too. Let Thunderclap scale with something. Something, anything, even if it's like AP. I don't know. Probably a bad idea.
Oh god, yeah, I don't know what would happen.
Fucking war, like stop and kill an entire arena team. Like, make it scale with something, because when people are using Thunderclap now to try and get any semblance of threat on multiple targets and then cleave, and if they have Thunder Fury, it's at least decent. But for the warriors out there who might be wanting to play the class or anything, good lord, it needs some fucking help in terms of AoE, not threat, but attention. Like, I'm not even going to call it threat. It's like making the mob pay attention to you for a second or two, because it's only going to get worse. Warlocks are going to hit harder with Seed of Corruption, and paladins are only going to get better at AoE tanking. I'm not saying warriors need to become the AoE tank. They just need to be able to have a mob look at them for more than 5 seconds. Sorry, I'll be kind. More than 2 seconds. That 2 seconds is all I asked for, Blizzard. That's all I asked for. Snow, if you'd like to make a rogue request, now's the time.
1 minute Blade Flurry. 1 minute Blade Flurry.
Oh shit! Actually, that's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea.
I mean, that's not a bad one, because it wouldn't make things crazy, and it would make me more competitive overall. It's actually not a bad one. It's not a bad one. It wouldn't OP rogues anything. 1 minute Flurry would just be a nice thing to have right now to be a bit more competitive overall.
Yeah, that'd be pretty nice. That would also like scale into combat potency and your overall damage and stuff. Like, yeah, and it's a cooldown. So yeah, I kind of like that.
There you go. Wow hit view.
Not unreasonable.
Yeah, wow hit. If you guys want to take any topics, that's the one. Take the one where Zirene talked about the warrior changes, and then the rogue 1 minute haste one. That's the headline for you guys for your next clickbait article. Do that one, please. I choose that one.
Okay. Wait a second. What about chat? Do you have any requests? This is the time. This is kind of like, this is like when mom's getting the shopping list. Like,
everyone list your requests. Quick.
Yeah. Guys, what do you want? What do you want? So does somebody want to like trade primals, or you want to be able to trade in dungeons? What else you got? Don't nerf ferals. Okay, yeah, I'm sure they're already doing that. What else we got? One more. Adrenaline rush down to 2 minutes. Seems a little unreasonable.
That might be too much. That might be too much. We gotta scale it back a bit. Scale it back a bit, guys.
Yeah. Give me something that won't make Blizzard completely disregard this entire segment. Sap in Well, that's just stupid. No, that would never happen. Sapping in combat. That sounds crazy to me. No, charging in combat though. Charging in combat. Now that sounds like a great change. Put that later in the game. Wind Fury proc on offhand.
Someone is suggesting weekly crates with motes and primals based on how many heroics you've done. That sounds familiar.
But that would just give me the same motes every week. The ones I don't need. Oh god.
Oh, rogues should be able to use two-handed axes. Okay. We've gone too far now. We've definitely gone too far.
What are you talking about, dude? They like you sneak up behind somebody and you're just like back. You should be able to ambush with swords. Why is it like I'm still stealthy? What's the point? I just gut you. So like freaking rapier, right? Yeah, that stuff works.
I mean, have you seen the rogue? The
Thistle Tea back up to 100. Now we're talking.
Ooh, that is interesting.
Yeah,
that is interesting. Thistle Tea back to
buff
100.
my Renatakis while you're at it, dude. Dude, Renatakis was really weird because I swear to God that Renatakis gave 60 energy. Then maybe I'm wrong and just like didn't look at it, but I swear to God, from level 61 to 69, it gave me 40 energy, and then as soon as I hit 70, it gave me 20. Am I crazy, or is that how it worked?
I'm not sure. It reduces by
or
level,
did it go?
but because I knew it was
Did
going
it
to
go
20,
down?
I just stopped using it when as
Yeah.
soon as I leveled. So I actually don't know how the level by level went. But I think it's supposed to be a set number each level. But I don't know if it rounds or something like that.
It was by 4 each level. Damn, it was weird because I swear to God that I was still getting 40 when I was like level 68 and fighting level 70s, right? Because I was using Renatakis in PvP still. Like somebody would like I'd see like there was another rogue around and they would kill me once and I'd be like, okay, time to put on PvP gear. And then I would put on my PvP gear, I'd kill them because I was getting 40 energy from my trinket pack. And then as soon as I hit 70 and I tried to use it and do like a same combo on somebody, I was like, oh, it's only 20. What the fuck? That's weird. When it was like 40, like I was like, I could have swore it was 40 like two levels ago. That it was like that or it was just I just wasn't paying attention and didn't notice. But yeah. Bring back world buffs.
I don't know about that one.
We're
I don't know about that one, guys.
Look, guys. I already say enough fucked up things on the podcast people hate me for. I don't need to, have world buffs coming back on them. Like,
oh God, could you imagine? I could only imagine the comment section if we were like, yeah, let's bring back world buffs, guys. Let's bring back that meta.
Oh man,
Like dislike ratio, very good, very very high on that one.
It's actually really funny because a few top guilds are asking me to, a few top alliance guilds, haha alliance, have been like DMing me and asking me to join on my warrior, and I'm like, wait, you guys like had things like set up and everything, and you were good, and they were. Let me see if I could find this. One of them said, yeah, we have room to improve, but are planning on making changes to continue increasing the skill cap in our core. Classic masked the skills of a lot of players. No more warriors cleaving targets, so people need to hit the right thing. No more world buffs to make fights so short you don't have to learn them, or a crutch if your raid is struggling. We have some players who are exceptional DPS who aren't making the right auxiliary decisions, and that's not enough for me. Like, they're like guilds are actively looking for people who actually play the game and not just zug. So, because I'm gonna tell you, in Classic with full world buffs, the tank is the person who had to pay the most attention, and then everyone else just zugs out of their fucking brain, like zugs out of their goddamn mind. That was all you had to do back then. And I agree with him. World buffs did mask the skill of a lot of players. Like I'm actually noticing now, like the effort level of a lot of people is really low, and the amount of like skill they actually possess for fighting things or making decisions in the moment, or oh god, or even contributing in the raid to the raid in a very meaningful way is it was just masked. And we have this meme in Rain where I think it was at one point somebody said something like I think it was like a slime or something like that got loose in original in Classic, and somebody said, look, we need to like get rid of the bystander effect here, and we need to have assignments for this. When somebody says somebody pick it up, somebody has to reply, me, I'm doing it, right? And then somebody's like, what's the bystander effect? So somebody like went and explained what the bystander effect was, and so now every time that something happens, people are like, is that the bystander effect? So like whenever people are like, man, I think we were all on the same target there. He's like, yeah, I think maybe it's a bystander effect. It's just because it's really true. It's really true. There's so much bystander effect where nobody was taking individual responsibility, and everybody was just zugging in Classic. So yeah, people want to play the game their way and not play the game the way that it's like it needs to be played, right?
Yeah, the lack of world buffs definitely has completely changed how a lot of stuff feels and how a lot of people perform. There's a lot of, it goes back to what we talked about at the start of the podcast, where I was saying that there's a lot of rogues, honestly, who haven't adjusted to their new role. There's a lot of rogues who still think that, oh, I can just ignore mechanics, I just want to do my own thing. And in the past, if you were not the best rogue, you were not doing mechanics, as long as you brought your world buffs and you zug-zugged, you were still at acceptable, pretty good DPS, even if you weren't performing properly. But if you do that now you're kind of griefing the raid. now it's like the raid's bringing you to do this and you don't want to do it. You don't have that leeway anymore. I have a lot of people who whisper me for rogue stuff, a lot of rogue class leaders in particular who will ask me questions regarding rogues. And sometimes they'll ask me, what do I do about this guy who doesn't want to do this? He's specking daggers, he's going mutilate, he doesn't want to expose armor. Like
You get a better
just,
rogue.
yeah. Honestly, that's usually what I tell him. I tell him, well, I mean, you tell him he has to do these things, or you pick one of the 500 other rogues who want his spot to do it.
Yeah, you go. Yeah, you pick one of the 500 other rogues that want his spot. By the way, what server are you on? And do you have DSTs that drop? Like, it's like, because I might have a rogue for you. You roll up your third undead rogue. It's like, hello.
Yeah, I mean, like, people ask me, like, hey, Sno, why did you roll another rogue on Feline? And I was like, well, I knew rogue spots were going to be really hard to find, and Savix offered me a rogue spot in that raid, and so I took it because I want to play rogue, and I got my rogue spot, and I got to get my Warglaze prio.
from Savix? No.
We're in different raids, so we're good.
Okay.
Good old Arasaka. But yeah, I mean, this goes into our next topic pretty interestingly, which is the class distribution. Because speaking of how classes are distributed in Arena, so I have this up on the screen here. Oh, yeah, this is an interesting one. This is a really interesting one. Well, I'll wait till. Do you have it on the screen? Are you getting an ad? Are you giving me ad money right now?
I am getting an ad.
Nice. Give me that ad money.
It is Prime Show Day X Her, X Kid Cudi. Prime Show Day.
I honestly have never actually looked
Amazon
at how much I get from ads.
Yeah,
I don't think it's very much. I've never actually looked at how much Twitch gives me for ads.
I love it when I get the Korean ads. Those are my favorite. Where I'm like, oh God, what is going on? Oh wait, this is what? I strangely like this.
Yeah, there's a dancing go on the screen. Why is there a go dancing on the screen right now?
And then it's done, and I'm just like, I want to go watch that again. Fuck Snow. Like, all right, what we got here? What we got here?
Okay, so this is the Arena 2s and 3s distribution. And as people already knew, if you look at it, rogues are just super popular. In 2s in particular, rogues are just everywhere. If you queue 2s skirmish at all, like it's like 90% rogues, I think, half the time. Rogues are everywhere in Arena right now, in 2s, 3s. I'm not going to look at 5s because I don't know how you even look at 5s.
They're everywhere in arenas because they ain't in the raids, dude. When you don't have to fucking be at a raid. Hey, check it out, dude. This is where you at. Wait, top classes. This is the representation, right? And just numbers.
Yeah, this is just representation in numbers of how many people are in there. And this is why when people ask me like, oh, why should I go swords and improve exposed armor for my raid? I say, look at the 5,000 rogues who are PvPing who would love the raid spot to get their PvE gear to do better PvP, who want your spot. And they're all there. It's like 5 billion of them. But the interesting part is druids. Because druids are really highly represented. Druids are higher representation in 3s and their second representation in 2s. And this was leading into a season where people were saying, I don't know if druids are going to be that good because a lot of people were saying that, oh, druids are going to get picked on. They're not good yet. They're going to be better later. But it turns out druids might actually be good right now.
Well, this is this is not a representation of how good something is. It's just how much people are playing it, right? Yeah. Now, if you want to correlate those two things together, you can. But in my opinion, Druid is the most fun healer in Arena, right? Paladin's fucking miserable because you hard cast everything. I literally was a rank 1 Paladin, and I'm telling you guys, it is the worst healer in the game in 2s and 3s. In 5s, a lot better, but it's fucking dog shit. It is dog shit in 2s and 3s. And that's where I got Gladiator. It is really hard, and you have to be Blood Elf if you want to compete at all. And a Druid is fun, though. Druid, you have stealth, you have ways to like swap around, you have mobility, right? And the funny thing, too, is Paladins, to some degree, are the only thing that really hard counter Druids with Judgment of Justice, right? To slow them down and make sure they can't run and kite. Because Druid, but there's like very little representation of them. And that's why, like, when I played Paladin, I did so well is because I actually knew how to beat Druids and how to deal with them. And if you can learn to do that, you can actually play a class that's bad because you're playing against a class that's really represented and beat most arena teams. Like, for example, if you look at the racials, right, the top races, fuck ton of undead. And the undeads are going to be good against 3 of the 5 top classes, right? The undead racial doesn't do anything against rogues or druids, but they work against priest, warlocks, warriors. If you look at orcs, well, orcs, obviously, more damage is always good. And their racial is going to be decent against druid stun, against rogue stun, against warrior stun, 3 of the top 4 races. But then you have human, which is good against the top 2 top 2 classes, right? That's what I actually think that human is boosted up by the fact that rogue and druid is so represented, right? If those were less played classes, you wouldn't have a racial, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be worthwhile at all. And in fact, it only works on those 2 classes out of all the 10 classes in the game. Perception is only useful against those 2 classes, and those are the 2 most played classes. So you'll actually get some mileage out of it, which I always find like really interesting. That the super interesting thing to me is when you get towards the bottom, it's like there's no Draenei shaman, and there's like, because Draenei is just a bad fucking race for if you're going to PvP, you want to play Tauren or Orc, right, for shaman. And then blood elves, it's just because there's like almost no paladins. like if you look at how many paladins there are and then you look at how many blood elves there are, it's pretty much the same number. It's like almost the same number. It's more than half. But yeah, this stuff it lines up with my perception, like you said, about how good classes are. Like I think paladin is the worst healer. I think hunter is the most, even though hunter's like really played in PvE, right? Like this is almost like it's very close to inverse of raids, right? Where like you don't have any rogues, you have like a few druids, but like where are they all going? Oh, they're just in arena. And then you're like, you have a fuck ton of hunters, and then there's like none in arena, right? It's because hunter's pretty miserable to play in arena when there's people on you, and especially for not like elite hunters who have good peelers, it feels really bad to play. So it's the same thing with shaman too. Shaman, you kind of flail when people are on you. So the funny thing is the top 6 classes, I actually imagined mage would be much higher. But I think that might be a product of less people are just playing mage in general now than before. Yeah. Because a lot of people were playing mage because you had raid spots, right? You AoE'd, it was a lot of fun. The AoE cap is in. People are playing warlocks instead. And the fact that warlock is more represented is that, in my opinion, this is very different than the way original classic was played, because less people played druid and warlock then. More people were playing warrior, more people were playing rogue, and a mage especially.
The interesting thing is that mages go up in EU, but only in the 2s bracket. EU has something with liking mages, but only in the 2s bracket. But for the 3s, it's exactly the same.
You know what's funny is the top 5 classes, all you have to do is take rogue and then add whatever the other class is, and that's a good 2s comp. Yeah. Like rogue druid, rogue priest, rogue mage, rogue warlock, all those fantastic comps. Like literally, rogue goes with everything except for like the bottom 4 classes.
I mean, I was talking to Bobka actually. Actually,
you're gonna have to give me a second. I have to use the restroom.
Okay, no worries.
So just one second. Yeah, I wanted to use the restroom. When I came out of the restroom, my roommate was coming home and he's telling me about this fucking Reddit thread, or not Reddit thread. There's a Twitter thread of let me see if I can find it really quickly. It's things commentators say when they don't know what to say, and I feel really attacked. Oh god, yeah, it's things commentators say when they don't know what to say, and it's like a whose line is it anyway thread. It's like, haven't seen this matchup before, but let's see what happens. Oh god, this dude hit a 10-hit combo. Pretty even game right now. Oh god, this will be interesting. Oh god, it's literally everything.
I mean, it's one of the skills, right? That it takes time to pick up. I always wonder how much training did you get doing all that stuff? By the way, like
none. It's vocal training and like yeah. I read like a lot of books from commentators. Like on my shelf back there, I actually have like a Call of the Game and a few other things for like sports commentary. But being a color commentator, there's not a lot of like resources out there. That's why I actually like mentored a lot of people, because I made the transition from amateur to pro and kind of made a system for it, because I just remember whenever I got feedback, it was, you need more narrative. And I was like, the fuck does that mean? Like, what's narrative? Like, how do I do that? What does that look like? Right. And they were always kind of like, oh, just kind of figure it out. And I was like, Okay, so over like the past decade, like tried to figure that stuff out and help other people. I actually like have mentored a lot of people into becoming like professional commentators. I'm actually a better teacher than I am doer.
I'm curious though, how do you do the vocal training stuff? Because that's one thing
Vocal
I
training is
always
a lot.
notice with streaming is that it stresses your voice. I always wonder
Yep.
about that. It stresses your voice just streaming.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things for diaphragm support, for yelling. Even like you can get trained how to yell appropriately. My roommate Captain Flowers is like one of the people who like he would blow out his voice regularly, and because he would do a lot of yelling,
Yeah.
and you're not trained.
Yeah.
But then when you get actual like vocal coaching, there's different techniques that you can pick up, different ways to yell, support, make it sound like you're still yelling and not like I'm yelling kind of thing, right? Like actually have it sound a little more visceral while supporting it. And I think Jat for the longest time was getting sore throats all the time, and he actually had to do like a bunch of exercises where he would it was a thing where one of his warm-ups was you get like a glass of water and a straw, and then you have to like blow consistent bubbles into the water for like a decent like period of time. And it's so that you support it the entire time and you can keep pushing. Because what he was doing is he's like not supporting, he's talking from his chest, and he's kind of having to take more breaths. He's putting his voice more in his throat, which strains it more, as opposed to keeping it down in your diaphragm. There's a lot of different things. There's a lot that goes into the voice. And the thing is you don't just take one lesson and you're good. It has to be constant training and like actually practicing. It's not like, oh, go play your instrument and then never practice when you're at home. You show up to class and only practice when you're there, only take the saxophone out of the case, the violin, and when you're at home, you don't practice or anything like that. You have to practice consistently and take it very seriously if you actually want to improve. But yeah, supporting your voice is goes a long way in terms of being able to stream a long time and not stress your voice. Yeah.
Yeah. That's something I gotta look into because man, like some days when I gotta know what Payo does for his voice training. Jesus, that guy's he must be doing something to be able to do that. Otherwise, he must be having a sore voice.
It's really interesting because there's some places, there's some cultures as well that cultures and languages that you support your voice and make the sounds from a different area, and it will naturally make you very good at things later in life. It's kind of like how I kind of equate it to your nurture appears like nature, right? Where somebody like Captain Flowers, it's like, oh man, he's just really talented at like supporting his voice and yelling. It's like the guy's from the fucking like buttfuck a middle of nowhere, Ohio, where you got to yell at your neighbors because they're across a goddamn cornfield, right? Like you've trained yourself naturally to like do these things and do them consistently. It's like my friend who wasn't really like a singer or anything like that, but ended up having there's a thing in singing for especially men, connecting your bridges where, when you go into falsetto, when you like go really high and you're like, and then you like end up in your like head voice, there's a way to connect them and make them sound similar and not go into falsetto. And I had a friend who was a Pacific Islander, and he could already do that without having any training because when he was growing up, that's like how a lot of their songs were. Right, you play the ukulele, and a lot of their songs actually involve like your head voice. So it was really interesting when that happened. When we were getting like training together because I was in musical theater, and the vocal coach was like, "You actually do this naturally, and this normally takes people like 10 years to master when they first learn about it because you're trained to like not connect those voices." But he'd been like connecting them since since he was very young. So actually really interesting.
Yeah, that is really
there's
interesting.
a lot of the voice is a lot of product of your upbringing, your language, and how you speak, and then undoing years of that to be able to speak properly takes a long time. So yeah.
I have seen by the way the Zirene clip of you singing. I think it was like Disney. I think God, that was a while ago. I think I saw that. I can't remember when I saw that, but there were clips of you singing some Disney songs at some point.
It was probably "Make a Man Out of You" by Mulan. Yeah, it's probably that. That's like one of my favorites or go-tos. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, man, we went off topic there for a bit, but what were we talking about before? Oh yeah, Arena. Yeah. So I was talking to Bobka. I was talking to Bobka about why druids seem to be performing well and be really popular right now. Because a lot of the PvPers were saying, I don't know if I want to have a druid. Priests are just the better, superior healer.
Yeah,
And
that's my impression as well.
and he was saying it was because it's early on right now, and the priests are so squishy. And he feels like it's because the druids have a lot more escape. They can go bear form. They're more tanky and such. They're having that boost over the priest right now, where they can survive a little bit better than the priest. Whereas in a lot of twos comps and for example or threes comps, they target the priest first because they just blow the priest up. They're so squishy. So he's saying that's why potentially druids are performing so well, even though people were saying that they get worse or they're not there yet.
Yeah, that makes sense to me because I feel like druids weren't as good as priests. But the problem there is like the reason I thought they weren't as good is because I thought that the survivability of a druid was going to be lower than a priest. And once you have resilience, but then that kind of makes like a triangular thing where like druids are going to be good because nobody has resilience. Then they're going to be bad because people have some resilience and they don't have enough. And then they'll be good again when they get a bunch of resilience to survive. But I don't know if that makes sense. And they might just be good all the way through, right? Because I actually thought the druids would struggle right now because you could focus them. But I guess maybe they're just escaping or being really slippery.
Yeah, well, I think it's just because the alternative is that the super squishy priests aren't able to get the resilience right now yet. But we'll see. I guess we'll see over the coming weeks where the priests kind of go up higher.
There may be a quote unquote overrepresentation of druids now as well, because in terms of the compositions that you run, druids feel the best against range versus what priests do. Because priests versus like warlocks and mages doesn't feel as good as playing like a druid versus warlocks and mages, because you can shift out of their novas, you can constantly get away, you don't have to worry about like dispelling as much, right? You can get out of Curse of Tongues too, and don't really worry too much about that. So maybe their mobility versus range and being able to use pillars and stuff like that is like pretty beneficial. We'll see.
I mean,
I'm not sure though.
There's a bunch of early comps that are doing well as well, which is really interesting. I don't know if you saw, there was a clip of Soda Poppin'. I think it was on live stream fields or somewhere else. I don't remember where I saw it, where he was kind of sad because no one wanted to play twos with him because druids were so looked down upon, and all his friends are super sweaty gamers that want to be rank 1. And so people didn't want to play with him, but he's actually performing well. He's currently rank 1 in twos with Zico. Yeah, so it seems he's performing fine. But I was talking to Bobka, and he was saying there's some interesting comps right now, just for the early season. There's some teams like, is this here? There's a team that's running BM Hunter in, this is twos. In threes, they're running BM Hunter, and the entire comp is just around the BM Hunter coming in full PvE gear, just popping BM and blowing someone else up. Because they can get away with it right now because people don't have resilience.
Is that it? Is it number 5? Number 5?
Oh yeah. Here we go. So
it's the French moose cleave.
The French moose cleave. Yeah, apparently that hunter just does so much damage that he just always kills someone. Like it's just too much damage. They can't get away because he just pops BM. He's unkillable for that 30 seconds, and they can't do anything to stop him besides like pillar hump or whatever.
That makes sense to me because like there's like no resilience right now, so I'm like, oh okay. It's honestly pretty cool. Pretty cool. I like that. What are these other compositions? Because like you obviously see there's like a lot of
there's a lot of traditional comps, which is like the
there's a lot of Horde as well,
like
right?
Yeah, I mean it's by and large a Horde, but a lot of the roguelike priest, which I think Snuts is running. Yeah, roguelike priest. And then I saw
Rogue. I saw Lock Mage Priest, and I saw Venruki was playing with Azael.
Oh yeah, like, I actually did see that. Yeah. I saw Azael's deck. Does he have a stream, by the way, Azael, or does he?
He does. I don't know if he's using it because it was the Evil Geniuses thing. But it's really funny because I saw this female undead warlock leveling when I was flying around Nagrand, and I killed a mob for him and then waved at him, and his name was Azael X, and then he just like ran away and didn't even say anything. I think he was just too busy leveling or some shit. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, was that Azael? And then my chat was like, yeah, he's in Sup Fresh our turn, baby. Like that's him. And I was like, wow, okay.
My favorite
when you have to take
clip.
Azael X, you have to take Azael X instead of Azael because your name's taken. That's always a little sad. It's always a little sad. I mean, that's when you know you've made it. When somebody's taking your name.
My favorite Azael clip, or not clip, is that I think it was like a Reddit thread where someone was calling him out for not knowing what it's like to be a champion because he would say something in League of Legends.
That was a Reddit. Oh, sorry, that was a Twitter feed. That is his best brand move to date. That's his best brand move because before then it was always like in League of Legends people were like, this guy is like not quite Jat, not quite Kobe. He doesn't have his own flavor yet. And then when he did that, dude, that was it. Yep.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, for people who don't know what we're talking about, basically someone was calling out his commentating or his commentary or his opinions for saying things regarding what it was like to perform at a high level and compete and be number one and the drive of people who do that, and saying he had no experience and they just didn't know his background was he was literally like a BlizzCon champion.
Yeah,
he's literally a world champion.
His reply was, "I'm literally a world champion." Like, and then his bio, everybody was like, "Holy shit!" And then his bio became literal world champion, and so everybody's like, "Oh, it's literally a world champion." Oh man.
Did you see Blizzard's upcoming tournament?
No.
Yeah, so they have an arena contest coming up, or tournament, a little shindig that they're bringing along. 30,000 prize pool. It's just going to be a simple threes comp, 3v3 arena tournament, it seems. There were some people, although they were complaining about the prize pool though, but I don't know if it's that if that's surprising, because I don't think Blizzard's ever really invested much into Classic. I think it's kind of par for the course that the prize money doesn't match because Blizzard just doesn't seem to put much money into Classic to begin with.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Was it I'm learning very quickly that, like, because a few people asked me to do like stuff for them for tournaments, and I told them what my day rate was, and they were like, yeah, we were expecting it to be like a fourth of that. And I'm like, really? They were like, yeah, the S tier in WoW gets paid a fourth of that, like S tier casters. And I was like, holy shit. Because like they have less events too than like League, and like people would pay my League rate all the time. Like Twitch Rivals pays even like a higher rate than that for like my roommate Captain Flowers pays like twice what mine is. So it's like it seems like there's not a lot of money here in terms of competing or commentating. And I was like, interesting. But it makes it really like it makes it kind of a loss to do some things for them, right? But ultimately, like it just feels like there isn't a lot of money there because they just haven't seen a lot of money out of it, so they don't really know. Like there's not a lot of support, right? Like, yeah, where do you think the money comes from?
Yeah, they're gonna see the numbers first. We gotta see if
right?
I guess it will determine. This is the first one they're doing, so this will determine. I guess a lot of things. People will look at this and see how many viewers did this get. Because in the past, I mean, you can watch Arena now in retail, and it doesn't get that many views for the Blizzard contest.
Yeah, the Mythic Dungeon gets more.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how this one goes. But it seems they're doing like online, offline brackets and things, and then they're gonna have like proper casting. They got Zico and Venruki coming in to cast and such. So it should be an interesting little tournament. I'm just curious to see how much support you'll get. And you're actually getting a bonus title. If you're top 10%, you get a Vanquisher title, apparently. But it's just that prize money isn't that big, so I don't know how much draw there will be. But I think all the PvPers will sign up for this. It kind of just makes sense for them to do it.
I hope they get Azael for this. Like, that would be amazing. Like, 1, he's a legend. 2, he's good at what he does.
It says mystery caster, so I hope he's a mystery caster.
I hope so too. I hope they tap Azael for this. If they don't, because he went freelance in the last few months or so. He still works at Riot, of course, or like he still works or gets hired by them to cast for them. But yeah, he is fantastic at what he does, and 100% blends with his crew. So I think it'd be stupid not to to ask him to do this. So shout out Azael. I hope he gets this fucking job. I hope they ask him to do it. Hope they ask for the return of the literal world champion.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it because everyone says TBC is way easier to watch as well, which is true because
Yes.
this is before it goes all retail like where there's 5,000 things going on screen and I have no idea what's going on because it looks like there's a nuclear bomb going off half the time. Whereas in TBC arena, you can actually at least follow along for the most part.
Yeah.
You have an idea of what's happening, which is nice to see.
Yeah, I think it's like I said, a much better spectator sport because you can tell what's going on, right? You can tell who's winning it almost every time by watching health and mana. And in retail, it's all cooldown based, and those are a little hidden. Even though they're shown on screen, it's a little bit more arbitrary, right? People don't always know exactly what's going on or who's winning. That's the kind of things people want to know at all times.
It's really interesting to see the skill increase too. I'm curious to see how it goes versus how it was back in the day. Because I was talking to chat about this before we started. That man, we were bad back in the day. Even at the gladiator level, the level of PvP we did. Because even now, because I just did this mini series I just started with Bobcat, where he's kind of teaching me how to PvP at his level, and I'm getting all my bindings right and hotkeys correct, and even just the simple stuff like making sure I have a focus set for all my main abilities and quick swapping focuses. Like he doesn't even have a regular blind. If he wants to blind something, he always swaps his focus, and then his focus is always on focus blind. Or his blind is always on focus. So he swaps on the fly to just make it easy. He doesn't even like mouse over click because that can be inaccurate and such. And it's been some getting used to it because I was 2200 back in the day, but I didn't do any of that stuff. I literally just set my focus manually half the time, and then I just blinded. I half the time I don't think I even used the focus. It just kind of sat there to monitor stuff. But yeah, it's gone into a very high level. Is honestly, I found skirmishes have been really helpful. I don't know how much arena you've been doing, but
I haven't done any, unfortunately. I've been like,
yeah. But yeah, I found it very, very useful, skirmishes, because man, just trying to get used to not tab targeting or targeting something else and blinding, but instead like, oh, I gotta make the conscious decision in my head. I want to blind that guy. I gotta swap my focus there, and then I can do whatever ability, whether it's focus blind, focus kick, shadow step. It's definitely a step up, I would say. People forget how bad we were at Gladiator back in the day.
Oh yeah. Oh no, we're really
how
bad.
min-max
We're
has
really
gotten
bad.
now. Yeah.
It's a lot more min-maxy now, which is super good. I'm happy for that personally. Like I like seeing that stuff. I like seeing people play to the limit because that means you have like less potential criticisms of them too, right? So,
yeah,
I like that.
So I had this up. I don't know. Like, do you think this is a fun segment to do? I feel like it's pretty straightforward. Where would you put the class rankings based on early or what we're seeing now? I feel like this might just be a representation of the data we just looked over, which is like rogues S tier, and then I feel like rogues and warlocks are the obvious two S tiers. Do you think priests are S tier as well, or would you put them A tier?
Are we talking about twos, threes?
I think
PvP
twos
in
and
general?
threes. I don't think
Twos
fives
and
is
threes?
ever. Yeah, I think twos and threes.
Both. Okay.
Yeah.
Depends on like what we're considering S tier, because if we're just doing S tier, I would actually just leave rogue by themselves, because if it's like this is the best class, like cut above everything else, it's like rogue or warlock, I guess.
Ooh, so you do like rogue, and then like A tiers is warlock and priest.
Yeah, I feel like making at this point you have to make smaller differentiations between them. Yeah, I would do something like that. And then this makes people more mad, because when you go like, oh, druid is B tier, it's not like if you want to shove everything up and be like, hey, rogue is actually, it's kind of like these are the tiers and where I would put them. Like rogue in its own group. I'm not going to say like S tier, A tier. Rogue in its own group, then warlock and priest, then it's like druid, right? It's like druid, then it's like warrior, and then it's like everything. Druid, mage, and then it's like warrior and everything else.
Yeah.
This is kind of what I would do.
Paladins down here.
Yeah. You can you add a tier? You think you might have to add a tier?
Where would hunters be though? Because hunters are kind of like it's not like they're that bad. They can perform well.
No, Paladin, you need to add another tier. Put nothing in D, and then put paladins in the tier below that. Like, and I'm not joking.
Add a row below. Okay, there we go. New. New. There you go. But yeah, would you put hunters on the same level as warriors and shamans, or would you put them in like the B tier? Because I put
shamans. I put shamans below that.
Ooh, really? Below that?
Yeah. I put shamans below that because we're talking about 2s and 3s, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean 5s is just shamans S tier. Elemental shaman S tier 5s. So you do something like that then, where it's like rogues, then lock priests, then druids, mages, then warriors, hunters, then shamans, and paladins down by themselves.
Yeah, a new tier in the new tier.
You know, it's funny. I was doing so many skirmishes trying to set up my arena UI properly, and I ran into a few double paladin teams. And at first I was scared, but then if you live past the initial, they just both bubble each other and then run at you. They really can't do anything to you after that. You just run away, and there's not much you can do. But they are very scary when they're running at you with your bubbles up.
With their bubbles up. Yeah, but that means they aren't using wings.
Yeah, so you literally just run away.
They're less scary. Yeah, I mean, it's only scary if you have no healer on your team. If you have no healer and you're playing like, mage rogue and you like somehow take a bunch of damage during that time, you're playing bad. So yeah, it's not that hard to play around it. So
yeah. So I mean that was just for fun, but
what's yours? Because I controlled the whole list.
Oh, for mine?
Yeah. We'll do my list, your list. We can reset it and just be like, if you want to put like 2 things in the S tier and then like crowd the top, that's totally fine. It's a different style. Like I just like to divide things a little more. Like,
I would put warlocks on the same level as rogues. All right. I would put warlocks, and then priests. Priest is so weird because I feel like priests. There's such a differentiation between priests and how they play and such. Like I feel like sometimes they're S tier, sometimes they're like a tier below. It kind of depends on how you're playing with them and how the player and such. Like they have the potential. But I think if we're doing this just for early, I put them at a tier below the rogue and warlock, just because they're not as tanky yet. I think once they get more resilience, they go up on a similar level. But like right now, I feel they're not tanky enough. They're just getting blown up so quickly in arena. And I would almost be tempted to put hunters maybe one up in like the specific comps, but they're kind of like this weird niche thing where I don't know where to put hunters because they can perform really well, but then sometimes they're also trash. So I'm not sure. Like they kind of this is weird.
Top.
Yeah, weird.
I'm mostly doing it off of like upper bracket of these people, not like. It's upper bracket representation of like these classes. How good is the class? Not how good is like the best player on that class, right? That because we're talking classes, we're not talking players.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
the hair that I choose to split.
Yeah, it's tricky right now, just because like I think this is gonna change a bunch. Like with like if we were doing it for right now, actually like druids are probably on the same level as the priests right now, just because they seem to be performing really well right now. But then I think they drop down as we go on to that B tier. But again, for people watching this isn't like you can't get gladiator with these classes. It's just like a general power rough ranking of where they are. But wait, what else do we have to talk about today? I want to see if you saw the what are your thoughts of the shade thing? Shade is finally Karazhan is so much different when shade doesn't have a chance of one-shotting your healer.
Oh, with the dragon breath?
Yeah, dragon breath could change. So shade is so easy now. Wait, where is it? Karazhan. They fixed shade. I'm not sure why it took them so long. I guess they just had too many other bugs they were trying to fix. But this is something we've been talking about for so long, where the dragon's breath just felt dumb. The dragon's breath just felt dumb. Where it's
it kills you.
Yeah. What do you do? This does 3,000 damage. Like the only way you live half the time is like with NS heal or something.
Yeah, even then, man, it was like I think only one person had ever lived through it when I had seen that, and it was when we had run 3 healers. That was the only time.
I tell you, it felt so bad when you were only running 2 healers, and then one of them just got one shot by the Dragon's Breath really early, and you just sit there thinking, well, now we got to do 1 healer shade. I hope we can survive this because this is gonna suck. And there's nothing not really much you could do to save him unless the other healer managed to save him somehow. But yeah, it feels a lot better. It feels a lot better. Although I will still say I wish they moved the teleport still, because but now with Shade being a little bit easier, I feel it's not as bad of a headache. I haven't run into too much issues with groups that just wipe 10 times to Shade anymore.
Yeah, it's good because that run back is so terrible, dude. Like I hate that run back.
Yeah, it's funny. My guild did splits this week, and it just happened that last week I was in the worst split. I think we took like 5 hours for Karazhan, but this week we did basically like a 2-hour clear, which is very solid for full Karazhan, including Nightbane and everything. And it was such a difference because one group, the other split wiped once to Shade, and that one wipe to Shade added so much time for them. They were so far behind because they were watching my stream when I was doing it, and the raid manager was getting grief because he was like, "Why are you stacking the groups like that, man? You guys are stacking Snow's group to perform better." But it was literally like we looked back at it, and it was, oh, you guys actually performed really similar. It's just you guys wiped once to Shade, and that added so much time to your run back.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice. It's nice that they changed it. But just final topic for today, I guess, is the whole honor issue.
Oh man, the honor shit.
Yeah.
It's miserable playing Horde and trying to, like, a lot of people aren't competing in season 1 right now. Like more people will compete later because right now it's too hard to get
it's
gear.
It's so bad. I know so many people. Yeah. Like this was one of the things I was worried about early on. Is like how many people are going to compete in arena and PvP and such. It's turned so many people. I know so many people in my guild who were really hyped to do PvP, and now they say, "Oh, I need this much time just to get my trinket. I'm not doing it. Screw that." Mm-hmm. And now they're just not doing PvP, and it sucks. It really sucks.
Yeah, it's not worth it, right? Like I'm the same way. I'm leveling characters more than I'm PvPing right now, right? I'm just gonna get all my characters up. I'm gonna run multiple Karazhans a week, and then when you can get the other gear, when you can get season 1 gear with honor, or turn in pieces that people will be DEing anyway, or like rotting or using for off spec, then you can just get a full set of gear. Like that seems fine to me. So yeah, it's just a lot of people are talking about. A lot of people are trying to push the mercenary system more and more, right?
Yeah, for PvP. Yeah, I see a lot of people bringing it up because there needs to be a solution or something. I know there's a lot of talk right now, especially even in just the YouTube comments of our last video. There's a lot of Horde versus Alliance stuff. A lot of people wanting to say, well, this is a player-created issue, or like they should just reroll, or Horde. This is the Alliance advantage. We shouldn't be trying to fix this. But the thing is, like, this problem still exists no matter whose fault or who's to blame. And I more look at it as just what is good for the game. And what is good for the game is as many people PvPing as possible and a fun PvP environment. And what we're seeing right now is why I have the screen up is literally what we said last podcast, where the phase 2 meta from old classic has come back, and on some servers Alliance can't play. They literally can't play. So this is happening on, I think it's Blamau actually. Is Blamau on here somewhere? On Blamau right now, they cannot play the game. So they are actually choosing to transfer. They are choosing to transfer off Blamau, right? So Blamau right now is going from every server has seen an increase in TBC with people coming back for TBC, but you can see Alliance is barely increasing, and Horde is just increasing by boatloads. So these unbalanced servers are just becoming hell for the Alliance players, and right now there's a mass transfer going on where a lot of Blamau players are actually choosing to stack the one Alliance favorite server. So they're actually leaving Blamau and they're all going to Grobulus. Grobulus is now becoming the Alliance safe haven.
Look at Scarum, holy shit.
It's this whole Scarum scenario all over again. Like now we're getting like Grobulus is becoming the safe haven for Alliance, and then
even here it's just like that's not that bad, right? That's not that like.
It's not. We go down to Scarum.
Go to Scarum, dude. What the fuck was that? What was that?
Uh, hey, welcome to Scarum with
What the
zero
fuck?
alliance.
Like my Horde friends literally tell me to roll on this server.
The question is, how do the Scarum guys get PvP honor? I guess if you're Scarum, you're just screwed because you don't even have the
No,
world PvP option.
it's time to shard, Scarum, and Pagel together. We just put them together. Go to Pagel. Go to Pagel.
Wait, what was Pagel?
We have to merge those two servers.
Oh, there you go, Pagel. Yeah, Pagel.
There you go. But perfectly balanced, like all things should be.
Yeah, but yeah, this is what is a little bit scary. I'm wondering what's going to continue because Blamau just started this, where a lot of the guilds agreed to transfer off, and this is how it started on Scarum. This is actually how it started on Scarum, and everyone started transferring off. So I wonder if this is going to continue, and we're going to see Scarum 2.0 if it keeps continuing. Because apparently, I don't know, for whatever reason on Blamau, it's way worse, and the Horde are just making it hell for Alliance, where they can't even like do anything. It's phase 2 all over again, where they literally can't do anything. So it's
I mean, our server on Fairlina is it's only done it's only done BC. Okay. Yeah. Well, the Horde demographic on Fairlina has jumped up a lot, despite there being like a lot of people who are rolling there, like you were talking about yourself. Like a lot of PvPers have gone there. And well, even though like it was Alliance favored, it's now swung Horde favored again. But this was what it was like back in phase 2. But I've noticed that Fairlina, we've been able to hide because we've had like 5 layers plus, right?
Yeah.
We've had 5 layers plus, and we've been able to hide from them. So when I'm leveling, it's not a big deal. Recently, ever since like the whole world bosses thing, where we actually got every single world boss to date. We haven't lost a single one to the Horde. And we noticed that there were 3 layers before, and now after the last reset, there's only 2. And they've been like there was only 1, and then they slowly brought up a second one, and there's only been 2 layers. So I don't know if I'm pretty sure they've increased. I don't think they like I don't think it's the game's dying or anything like that already. I think that going from 3 to 2 layers, they just increased the number of people that could be on each layer. I've noticed way more people in like Shattrath, stuff like that. But it also has made Akadun and Coilfang Reservoir. Like I really noticed the difference between the number of Horde and a number of Alliance. And this server is like 56-44. I can't imagine a server that has any more of an imbalance than that because, like you said, it becomes impossible to play because the Horde want the honor, right? They want the honor. My friend was telling me he was actually farming slave pen bots for honor. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I found out how the slave pen bots work. And I was like, but wait, they zone out, you kill them, and you don't get any honor because they're on this target. He's like, but when they come back, the bots res at max range. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, the bots accept res as soon as they're able to. So when they do the corpse run, they actually res further from the portal, then you kill them again. And then you can actually farm them all the way back to like the tube and shit. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, he's like, yeah, it's actually not bad. You just have a constant flow of just fucking honor.
So what you're saying is this is a genius move by Blizzard to make the players self-control the botting issue.
Yeah. He's controlling the bots, dude. But that thing is, he's like, it's a double whammy. I'm affecting the Alliance economy, and I'm getting honor.
But yeah. So this is the issue with the 1 hour queues, and the problem is in Classic it was only for one phase, right? It was only like phase 2 that was really bad, and I don't know when the end is for TBC if this continues because Horde need honor, and if it's 1 hour queues, this is always going to be the superior option, is to go in the open world and kill people. And I know like people in chat are saying like I screw the Horde or screw the Alliance because like it's a self-created problem and such. But
somebody told me it's an Alliance racial. It's the most powerful Alliance racial. I was like, I guess humans get reputation and the Alliance as a whole get lower queue times, racial.
So the worrying thing for me is mostly like how long is this going to continue, and like is it I look at it more as it healthy for the game, and I think it's really not probably not healthy for the game for this to continue like this in the long term, whether I'm for the Horde or for the Alliance. So I don't know. I'm really worried that it's gonna affect PvP a lot because there's queues are already not great. I don't know if the chat has done much 2s and 3s, but once you get up to the the 1800 plus range, the queues really slow down. From what I've seen,
I mean, it's always been like that.
Yeah.
I told you back in the day, like you'd wait like 45 minutes for an arena queue to pop when you were number 1, and then if you lost, you lose like 25 points.
Yeah, and then you pooped your pants at one time.
Yep. I pooped my fucking pants.
Yeah. So I don't know what the solution. I think so far it just seems mercenaries, not mercenary, merc mode seems to be a solution. But I've seen people saying that like.
But the question here is with mercenary mode. Alliance could be like, let's protest and not do mercenary mode because they already have fast queues anyway, right? So is the incentivization for Alliance, you get bonus honor for doing merc mode. So Alliance still actually get a racial of getting more honor. So it accelerates the amount that Alliance can get honor, but it also increases the amount that Horde get, right? Because Horde will be able to actually get into games now. So they get to play more frequently, which increases their honor. And then Alliance can opt for bonus honor and playing on the other side. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think on how it would work and what would be the best solution. Because there's people in the no changes camp still. I've seen some people in the no changes camp where they say, this is how original WoW was. Don't change it. These are the queues. You got to deal with it. But
yeah, the other solution I've seen is make skirmishes have honor when you kill people.
Ooh.
So, because then you can skirmish the other faction, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And do arenas and actually get honor through arenas.
That'd be interesting if it was.
But would that kill BGs even more because people would just go try to skirm while they wait and then they get honor that way? I don't know.
It's definitely changed the way I play the game, at least in that like I was just
somebody said why play as a mercenary ally, get a shitload of honor anyway? Because I want to play with a faction that has better racials and is more likely to win the game and try harder because they're waiting in longer queues instead of play with the show helm, show cape, human male warrior.
Yeah, well, I mean the worry there is as people are in chat saying is that would it mean that
that's just me though?
Would it kill Alliance even more? And then people would just now we're all Horde. We're all one faction.
Yeah. It definitely would. There's a faction imbalance that was created ever since the inception of Blood Elves, and it's never recovered, dude. It's always been bad. It's always been bad since then. But Alliance got to enjoy, easier Naxxramas and all that. But now it's the Horde's time. The question is, how much do we need to change, or does anything need to change? Honestly, I'm really not sure when it comes to.
It's tricky because you don't want like a domino effect as well, where you change one thing and then it causes other problems. Like you've said, sometimes we've talked about in the past, where sometimes you change something and it can have unintended consequences and such. And it can make things worse for all we know if they change one thing and then some other issue props up. But I would like it to see if they don't do anything else. I think it would be great if they at least gave people at least a 5-minute trinket for free, because that trinket kind of sucks anyway. And right now it's 2,000 honor to get it, and even that is turning a lot of people off from just doing arenas and doing PvP. I'd be okay with giving people the 8,000 on a trinket for free, just if it means there's more participation in PvP, honestly, because so many people are turned off by it. I actually tried to do 2s with without a trinket on me and my guy, and we actually went 50%, but that was at like just placement games because people were trolling, I think. But it was really hard. You get 1 CC and you just lose because you can't break anything. You have no CC breaks. So like it just wasn't doable. Like it just really wasn't doable in long term without a trinket. So I feel that it has to be some solution. If you're gonna make this one item have to be mandatory, putting it behind this wall is so rough. It's so rough.
Yeah, I mean it's a problem that like needs to be solved in some way, shape, or form. In my opinion, even as an Alliance player, I feel like the Horde, they don't get to play the game, right? Even if they get to play the game a little better than you do, or you're saying that them being able to play the game will make you less likely to be able to play the game because they'll camp or whatever and all that. Like, I don't know if you understand what it's like getting camped and all that shit. So sure, there's like PvP solution here. There's like literally no solution to it, right? Like there's no way you can actually do anything about it. So it's unfortunate. I just feel like I'm a big person who has the philosophy of just let people play the game and then they get to figure out the way that they play it, right? Just let people be able to be in BGs and whatever solution that is. It's kind of the same thing with like, it's one of the reasons that I'm fine with the 58 boost, right? It's this, I'm bringing all this talk back. I'm fine with it because it's just like, I want more people to play the game and have access to it so that more people can play with each other. And here it's like, I just want people to be able to play the game and enjoy BGs or play BGs, right? And whatever solution does that is the one that I'm going to support. I don't know what that solution is. I don't know what the one that's going to be elegant enough to actually solve the problem will be. But yeah,
it's kind of rough because at the same time we also know that the classic team is really small. So any more complicated solutions, I don't know if they'd be willing to implement like any complicated solutions as well, or if they have time to implement that. Because they're so small, they're still fixing bugs. I mean, we only just had the shade bug fix like in the last week, and we've known about that bug since God knows how long. So yeah, it's a question of like resources as well. Whether they're even willing to dedicate the resources to try to fix a problem like this.
Just buff Honor Blizzard. It's that simple. Yeah, it would be a solution. Maybe it would make more Alliance queue. I don't know, but the Alliance, it doesn't matter even if all the Alliance queue. You'll have. That's the thing is, given the population difference overall. Even if all the Alliance queue, there's still going to be Horde queues.
You know, I've heard from some people also who purposely were on servers that were Horde unfavored, hoping for better queues, and then because of how the groupings worked, that didn't turn out well for them. So they're on like a Horde favored or a Horde unfavored server, and they still have to do the 1 hour queue. So they're getting kind of like the short end on the stick on both sides there.
Yeah. Yeah, that really sucks then if you're like already in a bad server for you.
But yeah, I don't know what the solution is. I really should have picked a different topic to end on. I just don't know how to wrap this one up happily.
So here's the topic. How long until Serpentine Cavern Tempest Keep do you think?
Okay, yeah, that's a topic. What? How long are we in?
We are 24 days in, 23 days in.
So like
we are 3 weeks going on week 4.
I feel like at least 4 months total wouldn't be crazy. Because the first time around, it was 5 months. I think phase 1 was roughly 5 months the first time around. I think it has to be at least 4 months.
Didn't they already have Serpentine Cavern, Tempest Keep, and Hyjal in the game, though?
That is true. But I feel like because of the catch-up mechanics of things, because they need people to catch up, and an arena has to go a set amount of time, I feel it has to go. Yeah, it has to go at least 4 months, or roughly like that 4 month period at least. Because the arena, if the arena season is too short, it doesn't feel like a season.
Yep.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a season. That's the thing.
But the thing is, is that their plan even to tie arena seasons to the phases like that? Or
yeah. So that was the other thing I was going to say is, so what if, so food for thought, what if they instead say, hey, arena season isn't ending yet. And then they go into phase 2 with Serpentine Cavern Tempest Keep, and the arena season continues for like half of it. Does that kind of make the first whole part of it not relevant? Because people will now show up with Storm Herald and new gear, right?
That would make it very weird.
That would outgear some of the weapons and stuff that you would get in arena, right? Like right now, I think Deep Thunder is already better than like the weapon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if they'll tie it to it because you're gonna make PvPers upset if you like make it go through to the next one, because then they're kind of like somehow a little bit forced to PvE if they want to be the best. Which I guess is always kind of the case with TBC anyway. And then when you have to deal with PvEers being like, this phase is too long, I'm getting bored. Like I said, I never envy the fucking position of being the company that's in charge of this many people. It's pretty bad. Yeah.
I will say though, on a positive note, it is really nice having PvP there as an option as well. Because otherwise, man, back in Classic, once you finished all the PvE stuff, you just kind of sat around and like, oh, I guess it's time to level on out, do some professions or something. You just kind of started making up chores or doing gold farming. But now it's almost like you have a lot of stuff to do. There's always something you could be doing, whether it's like doing the faction grind, which honestly I'm not a super big fan of the faction grind, but at least it's an option there. And then you have the arena PvP. Then if you're doing both PvP and PvE, I feel like, man, you got a lot of content to get through right now. Like a lot of stuff, because the PvP game is a whole separate thing in by itself.
It really is, but getting into the PvP game and stuff like that right now is really hard. Like there's a large barrier of entry, like you said, trinket, all that. So yeah, it's it's pretty bad.
Yeah, I hope they fix it. I guess this is what we will see what happens. But yeah, guys. So I think that's all the topics we got for today. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you guys episode 16. Take care. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next week.
Yep. See you guys.